Hello everyone, my name is Derek DeNicola. I am a writer and producer working out of Los Angeles, California, and today I should be writing, and in fact I actually will be writing. Today we're going to pick up from where we left off from last week's Twitch stream. I stream every Tuesday from noon to 5, where I will kind of work for a little bit. I'll engage with other viewers who bring their work. You can review it, read it, give notes if you guys want. And then, that's about it. Just engage in anything that's writing related. Be sure to join the Discord. There is a link in the title of my Twitch stream that you can follow, where you can post your work or just talk about things that interest you as related to writing, or just cool stuff you're listening to. Anyway, where we left off. The last writing stream, we were writing a short story that I have tentatively called AI Art, and we decided to have a log line, which we did a little bit at the end of the writing session, And a log line is always something that will help you remember exactly what it is that you're promising with the story to the audience. So our logline is: after the death of her mother, a woman, in an attempt to reconnect with herself, inadvertently forms a relationship with an AI art exhibit, only to realize that some of the deepest truths can come from artificial sources. That is something that was good for now. I don't know that that's what I would actually roll with if I were trying to pitch this in screenplay format, put it on a pitch deck, something like that. But it does remind me what the tone of the story is and what I'm doing here. So we last left off ending on Act 1. We hit a bunch of beats, and I think I haven't really looked at this since we last wrote on it. I had the full intention of picking up where we left off and just making sure that every step of the writing process was documented in case anybody was curious or wanted to learn from the process in which I write short stories. What we did was we outlined everything in a 3-act structure, found our beginning, middle, and end, and then we also pushed in a little bit further into the beats of each act through the Blake Snyder beat sheet. It's about 13 beats, and made sure that my story contained elements of all of those hero's journey moments, which it did. And now we're just doing the dirty work of going through line by line, act by act, beat by beat, and writing the beats that I've promised in a kind of a vomit draft way, a bad first draft. Write the bad thing first and then clean it up. That's how we kind of roll. And now that I have caught everybody up, let's go ahead and throw this on the screen. And here we almost go. Sorry, I had this really amazing overlay that was made for me by Gabriel Saint, and I just want to make sure that the typewriter is seen because I think it's so cool, and I want to make my pages look like it's coming out of the typewriter. Perfect. Alrighty. So the first thing that I'm going to do to kind of catch myself back up on where I was just start reading. I'm going to try really, really hard not to edit. I'm going to want to, and in some cases I just may. But the goal is to not. The goal is to get through it. The hardest thing to do is to make it to the finish line on a piece. And I'd rather spend my time rewriting an entire piece than getting stuck rewriting the first act of an entire piece over and over and over again. And the reason being is because when you can understand your story as a whole, the notes change. And the ideas that you get from getting to the end of your story probably directly affect how you decide to edit your opening or even the rest of your story as a whole. And so to not try and get hung up on small things that would cause procrastination. It's kind of the number one thing that happens, right? To writers, we all get locked up and we procrastinate, and then we find it very hard to finish and get frustrated and then want to do something else and question our existence as writers, but we can't do that today. So let's go. Julie stared at herself in the mirror. It had been a while since she had really, truly looked at herself. Her hair was a mess. Frizzy, her mother used to call it. See, I'm doing it. It'd only get worse in the humidity. She'd hoped the bags under her eyes would distract from the wrinkles of her forehead. She practiced a smile. She wasn't sure if she could do it anymore. It had been so long since she had any reason to. Hoisting up the sides of her lips, she barely recognized the woman staring back at her. She knew the smile was a lie, and she was done lying to herself. Not to mention, after a few seconds, she could feel her cheeks getting tired. She opened the mirrored medicine cabinet and took out her mother's old prescriptions. She examined them one by one. Doxorubicin, used to kill cancer cells. That one worked, so she dropped them in the bin. The amifostine, used that to treat the side effects, was no longer needed. In the bin they went. She turned the next bottle in her fingers. Zoloft. This she was willing to keep. Is this bed the last thing? Julie came out of the bathroom to address the movers. She had been convincing herself to make more space in her life now that her mother was gone. The last piece, her mother's home care bed, the behemoth that sat in the living room of her small one-bedroom apartment, was about to go. Yes, that's the last of it. Julie had spent hundreds of days squirming and squeezing past that bed. It had been an impossible task to move from the kitchen to the bathroom with any grace. Now, seeing the Herculean task of these movers winding it out the door and into the hallway, she felt as if the Eiffel Tower had been lifted out of the Champs de Mars. When the door closed behind them, the silence became palpable. The indentions of the bed's wheels were still in her rug. She ran her toes over them, wondering if the depressions would ever rise again. She ran her hand over the crocheted blanket her mother had made. While her hands were still strong, she sat on one end of her couch that seemed too long, clutching the cotton to her chest. All this time, and I don't know what to do with it. Reaching to the dark corner of her closet, Julie pulled out a leather-handled tote bag with all of her art supplies from college. I haven't had a chance to paint since. Oh my God, since college. The brushes were covered in dust, like a forgotten pharaoh being pulled from his tomb. Even further in the darkest recesses of the closet was a rolled-up bolt of canvas. She removed it and expertly laid out all of her supplies in the living room. A small tarp covered where the giant bed once was. She took an old towel out of her linen closet, determined to ruin it. Finally, she stapled the canvas to an old frame and set it up on an easel, not knowing where to begin, just knowing that she must. What to paint? What to paint? What do I say? What do I want to say? Who am I? Julie turned on the TV and scrolled to the show her mother never wanted to watch, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Her mother had always said that their problems were never interesting because they weren't real problems, and even if they were, they could afford to have them. Julie hit play. Within 10 minutes, she had decided her mother was right and went back to her canvas. She rolled the end of the paintbrush against her lip. Maybe start with something simple, a still life. I think I have an apple in the fridge. She did have an apple in the crisper, but that hardly mattered when she realized she was hungry from skipping breakfast. She took a freezer-burned burrito from the fridge instead and zapped it in the microwave. Joylessly, she ate the tortilla wrapped in mediocrity while staring at the blank canvas. Maybe something abstract? I don't have to paint something if I can just paint anything. Julie filed through all of her paints, looking for the perfect color to begin with. She didn't feel purple or red or even green. Blue was too on the nose. Nothing felt right. If doing nothing felt right, she had a deepening fear that she would never do anything again. She needed a spark, a jump start, something that would help her reclaim her identity. When was the last time I smiled on purpose? Where was I? And then we have a little asterisk break where we move through time and space. Julie started to feel a bit better as she moved through the small maze of postmodern sculptures on the lawn. The towering white stucco building with its sweeping curves and brushed steel reminded her that she was in her happy place. The glass doors slid open and the cold air made the hair on her arms stand up. Everything was how she had remembered it, perfectly preserved, clean. She passed through the Egyptian art wing, the arms and armor section, and headed towards the newest wing of the museum, but was stopped by a familiar voice. Julie? Julie turned her head and noticed Barry, the museum's barista. Draped in his green apron, he stepped out from behind the counter, his hands on his hips, and a slack-jawed curiosity on his face. I haven't seen you in such a long time. You still like a vanilla latte iced with almond milk? I've been taking care of my mother, and it's oat now. She smiled. She had forgotten how close she had become with the staff during her time studying the exhibits for her college courses. Barry had always been nice to her. He was her age. Years ago, he was dating one of the curators for the European Renaissance wing. She noticed he didn't have a ring on his finger. Either he's playing the long game, or it's over. Okay, so here we have a setup to Julie's backstory. We know that her mother is recently deceased from cancer. Julie's kind of got this new chapter of her life that she's starting. She's kind of looking back to who she once was for inspiration as to who she's going to be now in this new era of her life. We know that she's at least college age and probably stopped going to college at some point to take care of her mother, making her in her maybe mid-20s or 30s. Also, the fact that that we know where the story is going because we've beat out this story before, there's an interesting generational dynamic between people of a certain age and this new burgeoning AI technology. I wonder if we couldn't even go back to our Act 1 and infer that Julie is a little older, like infer that she had dropped out of college so long ago, kind of pushing her into her maybe 40s or 50s when her mom would be still pretty, fairly old, but not old enough to not get cancer, kind of a situation, and really kind of hammer home the disparity between what's about to happen, this AI art exhibit, and why Julie might fall for it. Of course, it's up to us to write it. But here we go down to our notes, right? So we have cleared all of our Act 1 notes and beats because I have done a strike through on them, so I know this. And so now whenever I feel lost or don't know what to do next, I just force myself to look at the next beat and just type it out. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be on the page. And it's only in retrospect where we really figure out what our story is. So now I have a note that says Julie seeks inspiration as a former artist in a museum. She hasn't been in years. The exhibits have all changed around. Her favorite barista still works there, also newly single. Julie meanders until she seemingly accidentally wanders into a large open room with blank walls. There's a placard on the wall that she misses titled AI Art. She needs to experience a meet cute. Okay, so what I'm seeing from my notes here is that we really need to transition from our Act 1 into our Act 2. So we've just met Barry. We don't want to really just move past it. I want there to be a little bit more interaction, since Barry's going to be a little bit more integral to the plot. And we also know, because of our Act 3, that they'll probably be going home together, or at least infer that in the near future that they will be dating each other, right? We've already blocked that out. So what I'd like to do here is kind of elaborate on this little interaction with Barry, infer that there's a little bit more to come, and foreshadow before moving her out. Also, there was a contradictory piece of literature, prose, that contradicts one of our notes. Like we said, oh, all of the exhibits have changed around, things are a little bit different. And then whenever we said that Julie arrived, we said everything was the same, very well preserved and clean, but that there was just a new exhibit that she hadn't got to see yet. So just something to keep in mind. I don't know which one's the stronger choice yet, but I will know by the end of the story. And what I want to do with Barry is have Julie say that she infer that Julie misses seeing him, that she doesn't want this coffee right now, but she's gonna go take a walk, clear her mind. She's just really happy to be back, that kind of thing. Share something that infers the personal relationship and the history of the past, and then also get her out of there with the promise of having a reason to come back, even if it's for the guy, under the guise of coffee, even if it is just that she wants to see Barry again. Okay, so Barry had always been nice to her. He was her age years ago. Been taken care of by my mother. Either explain the long game. How is your mother? We don't need to italicize that. How is your Barry asked. A smile. He couldn't have known. She had never shared details of her life, only spoken to him about. Let's see, maybe let's pick a artist that of, and I'll put like this artist, and I want to say a specific coffee, right? I don't know what they are yet, but the reason that I do this is because I want to find something that's thematic to my story. And so I would say, what artist has a reputation for being anti-technology? Let's see, Neo-Luddites. Okay, but you know what? I'm getting artists and I'm getting like singers, but what painters? Because Julie's a painter. And I want to make sure that it's thematic to the world that she's living in. Okay, there is an artist. While nobody's like completely anti-AI art, I mean, there's a lot of skepticism and a lot of people. They're not anti-technology, but let's not say anti-technology. Let's say anti-AI. What painters have a reputation for being? I keep getting Kelly McKiernan, a painter and an illustrator actively engaged in legal action and advocating for human artists. McKiernan discovered their work was being used to train AI models without permission and has evolved in a class action lawsuit against AI companies like Stability AI, Midjourney, DeviantArt. Okay, excellent. So since I kept getting Kelly McKiernan, just so you know, it's not showing up on your screen, but I'm just Googling this. Oh, I see. She's an illustrator out of Tennessee. I want somebody who might be like in a museum, whose artwork might be art museum. Yeah, guys, sometimes writing is the slow, quiet process of just looking things up. But, you know, you get to learn a lot of new stuff, like seeing Kelly McKiernan's art. Like, whoa, also, I can see how AI art was trained on her art. I can see, like, whenever you see AI generated art, I can see that it shares very close visual language to Kelly McKiernan's art. Let's see, just Googling, by the way, but then Google gives you an AI overview, and I just want you guys to understand the irony of even writing a piece about AI art and then like having to do the research to find anti-AI artists that might be in a museum, and then that information being served to me by a Google AI overview, which I don't even know how to turn off, you know? It's just a weird time to be alive. Okay. And then I would like to try and make it as something thematic to an older artist as possible. You know, a lot of these art museums showcase works of art from history, and it would be really cool to pull a thread from the past to the future, as opposed to everything being super, super modern. I don't know. But basically that's what I'm trying to Google search for, so I can plug and play this specific artist. And you know what? I'm also going to do a specific coffee, like even if it's like an Americano, because Julie seems to be an American and this is like an American experience. I don't know if like there are other countries who are as highly caffeinated and dealing with an AI industry as much as America, you know? I don't know, but let's see. So I'm getting some results now, some older artists. Edward Hopper, he has his artworks have themes of loneliness, quiet desperation, and stillness of modern life. His famous work is Nighthawks, 1942. And you guys are going to have to Google this. I don't know if I'm allowed to show other people's artworks on my... Oh, of course I know Nighthawks. I didn't know it was called Nighthawks, by the way. But it's an oil on canvas painting where it's the... where it's through the glass windows of the diner and people having, you look at it and you'll be like, oh, I've seen this and I've seen variations. of Nighthawks. I've seen variations of Nighthawks where they plug in like celebrities, like it's Marilyn Monroe and Elvis Presley having a coffee at this 50s diner, and it's from the perspective of somebody on a city block looking at the diner through a window. And it always portrays four people in a downtown diner late at night. Yeah, okay. Immediately, I am liking that. Hey, Yes Books, YS Books. That's because it's here to stay. Yeah, sorry, I was kind of doing a little Google searching, trying to figure out some thematic artists to plug into my story about a woman who has an AI art encounter, literally an AI art exhibit. And just so that you're aware, I've been writing short stories live on stream so I could show people my process. And here, just to summarize it, I always make a log line for my stories. And so the quick catch up would be that after the death of her mother, a woman, in an attempt to reconnect with herself, inadvertently forms a relationship with an AI art exhibit, only to realize that some of the deepest truths can come from artificial sources. So in the last stream, we basically went through a 3-act structure for the short story. And then after our 3-act structure for the short story, we pushed it through even smaller beats, the 13 beats of the hero's journey. We used the Blake Snyder beat sheet because it's all the same, and that's what I'm used to using because I'm a screenwriter first. And so we are actually moving into our Act 2 here, and we're transitioning from our Act 1 to our Act 2. That's exactly where we are. But YS Books, what do you write? And tell me more about yourself. And if you ever want me to like read or if you ever want to share some of your work, I'm happy to read stuff on stream from users. Vast, hey, how you doing? And you can join the Discord. I have a Discord in a link in the stream title where you can always go and join and share work. Vast, I haven't heard from you in a while, but I'm glad you're here. Whoops, turn my volume on. But let's keep writing. Sorry, I minimized stuff so I could check out your chat. I'm a little lost. Okay, so we were researching what kind of artists are thematic to the story. We have our main character, Julie, who is reconnecting with the last thing that made her happy before she had to take care of her ailing mother. We know that she was an artist, that she's a little bit older. She is going to this museum where not a lot of the exhibits have changed, which actually makes her happy. Everything's very clean, everything's very preserved. So she's going to be moving through an art exhibit of the past before she gets to the future, right? So even this is like a miniature arc. She's met her old friend Barry, the barista that we've named, and we know that she has a past with the museum and some of the workers at the museum. As art students often do, they will spend a lot of time in an art museum and they will go with sketch pads, charcoal, pencils, what have you, sit on benches and try and recreate works of art from other famous artists as part of their education, which will take us from the past to kind of to the present, which is this museum of art will kind of showcase in the present day what museums do, which is showcase the best works of the past. And then she'll move into a wing where we'll have basically an AI projection, I'm starting to think, behind a piece of glass that is designed to move around, walk like a human. And the concept will be like, oh, I get this art exhibit. We're the art pieces. And it's just a piece of glass. And we're supposed to examine each other. How cool, how thoughtful. Little does she know it's an AI art projection, and she'll be talking to an AI neural network over the course of their interaction. She'll even maybe start to develop a little affection for it because we discussed how AI is trained to engage with other humans, how they're better than some human therapists, and that they're trained to kind of deliver truth sandwiches, compliment, truth, compliment, to make you feel good and make information more digestible and make you trust the AI so you keep going back to it and relying on it. That's the goal here. But now that everybody's caught up, back to selecting this artist. So we have Edward Hopper and his Nighthawks painting. Another one I'm seeing is Louise Bourgeois, or Burgess. Sorry, Burgess. Her works are thematic of memory, trauma, The Female Psyche, Motherhood, and Solitude. Her work is My Man, 1999. Feel free to Google that. I don't know if I'm allowed to do it. However, I'm seeing that's a structure. That's not going to work unless it's a really giant museum and they put the structure that was designed to be outside, inside. I'm going to pass on that one. Right now, Nighthawks is in the lead unless there's anybody else. Oh, Francis Bacon. Very familiar with Francis Bacon. Gabriel and I made a movie about an artist, and we touched on Francis Bacon a little bit. Let's see. Let's look at his study after Velázquez's portrait of Pope Innocent work here. I know his work is usually like very grotesque. You know what? I still think Nighthawks is in the lead. And here's why. Because my literary mind is telling me it's 4 people in a downtown diner at night, and the perspective is from a distance, a viewer on the outside of the diner looking in at human life, at human interaction. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm drinking some cold brew and it's fighting me back. Let's take one more look at another artist, Lucian Freud, his work being Benefits Supervisor Sleeping from 1995. His themes of work include hyper-honest physicality, aging, and the body as truth, which could potentially take Nighthawk's place. We have essentially his work, Benefit Supervisor Sleeping, is a nude of an overweight woman lying on a couch where he used Sue Tilley as his model. This is interesting too, because now we have kind of an older woman who doesn't see herself as like, let's say like a Grecian statue. She's not a model, she's not wafy, she's imperfect. We see her on the couch, which is thematic to our Act 1. We put her on a couch, kind of clutching her mother's crocheted quilt to her chest. And here she is nude. She's exposed, which I do kind of like. And I like that it's a little less famous than Nighthawks. And specifically a little bit more female focused and a little about loneliness, imperfection, hyperrealism, which is the antithesis of AI art. I think this actually wins. This Lucian Freud painting. I think this is the way to go. Lucian Freud, ready for his work. Let's italicize that. Benefits Supervisor Sleeping. And occasionally, come on, man, get out of here. And occasionally, let's think about, this is going to be harder. I'm trying to think about what coffee is thematic to this story. And maybe it's being a little nitpicky. Maybe this is a chance for me to use something a little personal, but I'm almost thinking like something that's single serving, something small, right? Like we talked about, like, let's see, what kind of coffee, loneliness too. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going a little too far here. I'll just say, and occasionally her coffee order. It's possible to overwrite things, overthink things, and I don't want to get stuck here. How's your mother? Barry asked with a smile. He couldn't have known. She had never shared the details of her personal life. She had only spoken to him about her favorite artists, like Lucian Freud, and her affinity for his work. Benefits Supervisor Sleeping, and occasionally her coffee order. And you know what? I think coffee order is implied, and occasionally her anxiety about her classes. Okay. Julie, fearing the honest answer would demystify her entire reason for coming to the museum today. Deflected. It was great to see you. Coffee. Yeah, Harry smiled, waved, and went back to his tiny coffee stand. Okay, we know she's seeking inspiration. Barista, newly single. We got it. Done. Now we want to kind of create the experience of what it means to meander through an art museum. So guys, what I'm doing here is I'm kind of Googling exhibits that would exist in an art museum, and then I'll kind of punch in on some artists to kind of world build, right? What is it like to move through an art exhibit or an art museum? I can just tell you from my personal experience going to the Broad or going to the LACMA. Depending on when you go, sometimes it's really, really quiet and peaceful and serene. Also, depending on what exhibits you go to, some of the less popular ones, some of the more technologically advanced, shiny ones that make a good Instagram photo are always kind of occupied. Everything's usually clean. Everything is tall, echoey, mostly like white, sharp lines, and I want to articulate that. So let's say I want it to be a quiet day, almost like she went there early, I guess, and that that way there's a good reason to not have a lot of people around the AI art exhibit who can explain this thing to her, kind of also like leaning into the believability that we need to give for later. So let's say morning had a quiet that reverberated in her ears. Each room bled soft next. That's kind of how it feels, right? God damn, can't even spell today. The early mornings, Zian had always had if she moves like I do, she doesn't like look at an exhibit and go like, oh, I want to go to this wing. She just kind of like follow my instincts around a museum, really. That's it. Yeah, I'll let the walls guide me. She let the walls guide her. Gazing paintings along the way to nowhere in particular. Some paintings she stared for only seconds, some longer. She didn't really analyze, scrutinize any too harshly. She wasn't searching for color theory or brushwork. She was just waiting to feel something. Anyway, oh, I see. Yeah, it hates the reallys, doesn't it? I do too, in retrospect. It's just how things fall out at me. Every now and again, she would pass you early bird visitors. Yeah, I don't need that. Okay. No, I said I wanted to punch in on something, so let's get another artist. Maybe we could use both, right? Because I wanted to like use something that was okay. So I'm gonna Google this question. What are likely to be some art students in college's favorite painters? I was recently watching a show where they showed a film class, and everybody in the film class was asked, what's your favorite movie? And everybody said The Godfather. Like literally, Godfather. And there's an air of truth to that. I do remember being in college and people asking, what's your favorite movie? And it would always kind of be this, everybody would say something Kubrick. Like, who's your favorite director? Stanley Kubrick. It's either 2001: A Space Odyssey or The Shining. It's gotta be Kubrick. It's like, you do not know any other artists, and like, yeah, Kubrick is great, but I don't know if that there's a fine line between the answer that you say because you want people to respect your opinion and you don't want to be an outcast, and then there's the truth. A lot of people as a screenwriter will ask me my favorite movie, and a lot of people will say the same things over and over again, like The Godfather or whatever it is. But in truth, mine's 1991's Christian Slater's Pump Up the Volume. It has a personal significance to me, and not a lot of people say it, and I don't say it to be contrarian on purpose, but it is the truth. It was one of those things that it's like, oh, that story made me feel like I wanted to tell stories of my own. That's a movie that empowered me, that came to me at a formative point in my life, and was really important to me. And so that's why I say it. Egon Schiele. Why college students love Egon Schiele. Raw emotion, distorted figures, unapologetic sexuality, feels rebellious. Jean-Michel Basquiat, of course, graffiti background, cultural commentary, spontaneity and tragedy. Frida Kahlo, emotionally autobiographical, political, personal, feminist, yeah. Kusama, installation art, repetition, mental health themes. Instagrammable surrealism. Rothko, again, color field painting that feels spiritual. Emo minimalism. It's not about what you see, it's about what you feel in front of you. Francis Bacon, Georgia O'Keeffe, nature meets abstraction, feminine without being polite. Jenny Saville, bold, massive, fleshy, unapologetically human figures. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do. I'd even maybe like to see her stop and see a Jenny Saville or... No, okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to swap Jenny Saville for Lucian Freud. So, Lucian Freud, and then benefits supervisor sleeping. That's going to be what she examines because that's the closest thing related to her experience. We talked about how she was doing that on the couch, like how this painting is hyper-realistic, still life model, set on a couch, which is closest to our Act 1. So, pardon that, shared workspace. That happens every now and again. And so, back in her college years, because this was a reference to the past, we'll put Jenny Saville in Lucian Freud's place here, like Jenny Saville. And then we don't need this, like Jenny Saville. And then let's also do the Rothko. And then since we're not doing two artists, a third artist, it's set up repetition, variation, and even. And occasionally anxiety about, fuck it, we already know that. We're already telling the audience what they already know. So sorry to go back and edit like that. She found herself frozen once she stepped in front of Lucian Freud's benefits supervisor sleeping. Okay. Sorry guys, let me check on the chat and make sure that I'm not missing anything. Got into the writing mode. Caveman Waves, what's up? How you doing, y'all? Welcome. Yeah, guys, we're still just working. Oh, I see Mealpha and Mookie were lurking. Zanny's here. Zanny, what's up? Zanny, how have you been writing? Probably with your hands in mind, I guess. I meant to say, how is your writing going? Mookie at the office, but I am lurking and checking out the stream. What's happening? Mookie, I plan today on finishing the short story that we only wrote through Act 1 of on the last stream. So we've just started on Act 2 of our prose. We're moving our main character, Julie, through this art exhibit. We're going to have like a moment of what I call internal debate, self-examination, where we compare her life to an artist who is thematic to the story. And earlier, what you probably heard me doing was Googling, because my art knowledge is not as vast as, like, let's say Gabriel Saints, but I wanted to find an artist and a work that felt like it belonged in this particular piece, and we landed on Lucian Freud's benefit supervisor sleeping. And I don't know if I'm allowed to show other people's artwork on my stream, especially since it's a nude still life. It just seems like maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But definitely Google it so you can see the reference photo. And I like the idea that this might look like something that Julie sees herself in before we move on to this AI art exhibit and really dive into the fun and games. So even our Act 2 has a 3-act progression. I always try and do things in threes and make sure that there are even like smaller arcs within our bigger arcs. So she's moving out of our Act 1 into Act 2. She is talking about her past, which is our first stage, how she used to be an art major in college. You know, she had to quit to take care of her sick mother, but she's recalling her friendliness towards all of the other employees in this museum that she would visit often, and recalling her past favorite artist when she was in college. Now she's there in the present day, but still looking at past artworks, and stops at the Lucian Freud painting. And the third thing that we're going to do is actually make our full transition into Act 2 by having her go to the AI art exhibit. This is the promise of the premise. This is the reason that we're telling the story. This is what we promised the readers that they would get to enjoy whenever they set out to read this story. Let's see. Oh, constipation. Oh my goodness. But hey, coding is work. I mean, coding is writing. And while it might not be prose, it's putting money in your pocket. It's important. Mookie, I finished up a script that I had to submit to a producer who wanted me to write something based on an idea he had. My first time doing something like that. Oh, okay. I see, Mookie, that you're back. Yeah, I've had to do that too. So you wrote a spec script. Now I'm at work and I just heated up a small container of beanie weenies. Mookie, I love you so much, man. I just feel like I'm chatting with somebody from the 1950s. Every time I chat to you, you're working at the paper, you're writing a script on spec, you got your container of beanie weenies. Excellent. Well, yeah, I don't know if you... Sometimes whenever you write a spec script based on somebody else's idea, that comes with an NDA. I don't know if you ever want to talk about it. Of course, screenwriting is more my forte than prose. But I am dedicated to writing a book of short stories, which is why we're doing this right now. But if you ever want to chat through it, let me know. But I'll be using a lot of the tenets and principles that I use to write screenplays for my prose. It's just my own personal style. You know, each individual artist's voice is an amalgamation of all their experiences. And this is really kind of... I learned screenwriting first before I learned really how to focus in on prose. So it's going to be a huge influence on the way that I create my narrative literature. But hopefully, like, every now and again, like a nugget will drop. You'll be like, ooh, I'll take that. Okay, so now we're having this moment where she found herself frozen when she stepped in front of Lucian Freud's benefits supervisor sleeping. So for this, I'm going to essentially try and take a look at this painting and then kind of use any sort of personal feelings that it may evoke to kind of dig into Julie's psyche a little bit. I want to go back, not in the script, but I feel like I want to hammer home something that I have said to you out loud, but I haven't written for the reader, which was back in her college days. Just in case readers aren't familiar with frequenting museums or how art majors study, they often go to museums and have their sketch pads and learn by drawing and recreating works of other artists. And so I want to put that in there. Oh, Mookie says life is good. I hear that the Russians have launched a satellite. We need to beat those communists to the moon. Yo, Mook, I have this sci-fi short story specifically about the combination of AI and advanced weaponry in space, which is like in the near future, the Russians have a failed rocket launch where were attempting to put a nuclear arsenal in space. And so the US is trying to also beat them into space by launching an AI governed nuclear weapons system. And it's a little bit like 12 Angry Men, where the people who are in charge of putting this together, their compartmentalization breaks down. They all meet each other for the first time in order to assemble this thing and launch it into space before the Russians can get to their second launch. And they decide to remove the fail-safes because they're so jaded from government overreach and human greed. And what they've done is essentially launched an all-powerful nuclear-powered advanced AI into space, which is essentially like creating God. You have all-thinking, all-seeing, all-powerful being that humans can no longer control. And that if the idea of like how society would change if something like God were really put into existence. But maybe since that's in screenplay format, maybe I'll keep working on that live on the stream. That way you can get more benefits out of like me working on screenplay style stuff. And it's also work that I just need to finish, you know? I have a ton of notes and I have maybe the first act of it done, and I'm getting into that second act where it's all debate and it's all like, how do I genuinely make these people 12 Angry Men style convince themselves to remove the guardrails on this being. Okay, sorry, Mook. I know you were trying to lurk, and then here I am just engaging. And I know Me Alpha, Me Alpha's lurking too. Haven't heard from you in a while, Me Alpha, but I'm glad you're here. Even the lurks are liked. Let's see. Have you ever read the book or seen the movie Colossus of the Forbin Project? No, I have not. Let's see. I'll look up a little Wikipedia article on it, though. An American science fiction thriller film from Universal. Let's see, all these stars I don't know. About an advanced American defense system named Colossus becoming sentient after being handed full control. Colossus's draconian logic expands on its original nuclear defense directives to assume total control of the world and end all warfare for the good of humankind, despite its creator's orders to stop. Ooh, that's cool. I like this. Oh, nice. I always love a good reference piece. My original reference piece was War Games and Failsafe, the movie Failsafe. But I love that this exists, and I bet you I can like watch it on Tubi today. You know what? I'm going to put it in the Discord. What we're reading, screenwriting, TV, fun reference for you sci-fiers out there. Colossus. What's it called? Colossus, the Forbin Project. That's mostly for me too, just so I can remind myself to watch it as I keep gathering resources for how I want to execute the vision. I do like that. And if you haven't seen, if nobody's watched Failsafe, I can't believe I watched a movie that was so old that still took me by surprise. I literally, okay, I'll say this. Kind of a slow start. Escalates really quickly. Very enthralling. Ending I did not see coming. Really didn't think that would be the ending. Rarely am I surprised. And the fact that this older movie had evaded my radar for so long, I just felt it. It just kind of reverberated through my being for a while. You know, the rest of the day I was thinking, I can't believe that was the movie. I can't believe that was the ending. Oh my God. Check it out. Failsafe. Okay. So I need to look at a larger photo of benefits supervisor sleeping and try and start to evoke my own feelings from it. Maybe like how Julie sees herself. Okay, so, there's a high quality one. So I could see like, once I see it like really, really close, I see like dirty, almost unwashed hair. Her eyes are closed. She's laying on her side. She is based on Big Sue Tilly, so she is overweight. It's interesting that she's chosen to, or that she's portrayed as almost like sleeping if her eyes are closed. And she's uncovered. Usually whenever I lay down, I always throw like a blanket over myself or something, but I guess you really wouldn't get the exposed natural body if you did that. So I just keep seeing vulnerability, and she's the only person in the painting, so I would say isolation, which is also thematic. We already knew that going in. It's kind of the reason that this artist was suggested to us. You know, even the fact that she's tired. You know, Julie's been taking care of her ailing mother for so long. So, you know, I'll just make little notes to myself, but then I'll go back and so isolated, tired, vulnerable, we said. Don't need this to be italicized. Excuse me. I wonder if there's like a way to talk about weight, because it's not about like Big Sue Tilly being overweight as a woman. It's really about like, let's call it emotional weight, right? Maybe, because that kind of like is hand in hand with being tired. I can't tell if this is just something that my mind serves me because I've heard it described a million times. Unapologetic. Oh, they're like this artist is unapologetically black. This artist is unapologetically anti-technology. This artist is unapologetically themselves or whatever it is. But there's something about unapologetically resting too. I don't know if I like it, apologetically, but I'll put it there just for now. Something else about like a bigger body is that it's soft, and and there are other ways to be reflective about being soft. It's not about like texture, but like a softness in life, which I think is thematic to kind of like the loneliness and isolation. You know, when you're really, at least me, I don't know, whenever I do feel lonely or something like that, I get in my head. I'm very sensorial, and I do think that I walk a little more softly, approach people a little more softly, especially in the quietude of a safe space like a museum. Also, maybe like a little bit of like Julie seeing herself, but also reminded of her mother. And the mother is the opposite. The mother is the opposite. Because if you're ravaged and bedridden by cancer, you're thin, you know, weak, maybe. And like resting not from like a big, not, what am I trying to say? She's not resting because she had a big, long, hard day at work. She's resting because she's exhausted from fighting her own body. Resting, yeah, because she was exhausted from fighting her own body. Let me see. Sorry, y'all. I keep thinking, and then I forget to check on the chat and see how you guys are doing. Let's see. Oh, it's just Mookie supporting me. Your story shades that Colossus movie is from 1970, so it's a deep cut. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. That is of big interest to me. I love those big sci-fi think pieces like that, and I'm also interested in how people execute stories like that, which is why I love that Failsafe movie. Okay, let's keep writing, y'all. Anything else I could derive from the painting? I don't want to like get too deep into it. The other thing that I'll say is that hyperrealism is by its own nature kind of unflattering, and I like the idea of like raw. God, why is everything always fucking italics? So raw, unflattering truth. I don't know, these are just some things I see. Okay, so maybe I'll move this down. Actually, I'll just put a, sorry, sometimes I have to answer a text message. I was gonna move this down, but I'll just delete it. I was like, do I wanna lose these notes? But I plan on using them, and once I use them, they'll be done, and then I'll just delete them from the text. That's how I'll roll. And I'll also, you know, for the people who are reading, it is not a visual medium, it is a literative one. So, woman, large, nude, sleeping on a couch. How would you describe this couch? On a wood floor, it has a curtain background. Floral and cushioned, maybe, I guess. It's kind of tough to tell. I don't want to say it's uncushioned if it's not, because it looks like maybe one long cushion. Maybe, oh, you can see her legs are bent at the end, so maybe it's a little small. That's just too small, right? Okay, so now a reader should know. God damn, dude, what's going on? You don't like my M dashes? Sometimes I think I know whenever I can do an M dash, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay. She found herself frozen when she stepped in front of Lucian Freud's benefits supervisor sleeping, a woman, large, nude, sleeping on a couch that's just a little too small for her. Something about the weight figure kept her there, not the woman's size. See, in here I would think another M dash, like an M dash. Her emotional weight. Julie saw herself. Woman. She wasn't posing. Resting apologetically, right? So I got these two. Just gonna keep going with working in the things that it made me feel. She was resting. resting because her is exhausted from fighting her own body. The kind of rest that comes from the exhaustion of fighting one's own body. I like that it can kind of, I don't know, I was going to say that it can kind of work for both, but I haven't told that to the reader. It's just something I've articulated to you guys, the viewers, right now. So everything that I say is a note that I need to. Mother had rested that. See, like I want to do another M-dash. Her body thin, except her body was thin, frame. Oh yeah, it was isolated, tired, and resting unapologetically. So okay, so this is what I'm left with. Soft, raw, unflattering truth. I kind of just like that. I just kind of like that, this is a kind of happy mistake, I think. The soft, raw, unflattering truth nearly brought a tear to her. Yo, that's kind of cool. How that, just the words that we had left over to finish turned into a really cool sentence that I liked, and maybe I'll change my mind, but I thought that was a cool happy accident. Let's see. Mookie says some sort of combination of her and her mother. Yeah, exactly. I like that it applies to both of them in different ways. Yo, let's see. Okay. Let's keep going. Act 1. Let's check our Act 2 notes. Meanders. Wow, that was a lot of work for just the meandering section of this, but it's true. Gotta do it. Till she seemingly accidentally, that's overwritten, but it's a note. I don't care. It's just a note. Accidentally wanders into a large open room with blank walls. There's a placard on the wall that she misses titled AI art. We also talked about how, how she could kind of miss the placard if she's distracted by something. Like, I feel like there's always field trips in a museum. Maybe like a group of field trip kids distracts her or something. She turns away and then turns into this room that's big, open, empty. She's looking for art on the walls, but she can't find any. Like, did she accidentally step into an abandoned wing? She steps in front of the glass mirror and art appears, or art is there, or AI art guy. And then we have to kind of figure out how to fool the reader and Julie. And that's a task that would make me want to procrastinate. A reporter at the newspaper uses the long dash way too much. The long dash is a more recent phenomenon. I asked her how she lived in the past without the long dash. She said excessive commas. Do you use the long dash as a way to pause for longer than commas? No, man, it's weird because sometimes I'll ask people to read my work and they're like, oh, you love commas, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a fucking dig. And I'll try and well, do I want to just make my writing staccato just because people think commas are overused, and I'm sure you deal with this all the time at the newspaper. But no, and also M dashes have been used forever. Whenever some people were telling me oh, M dashes are more of a recent phenomenon because AI uses them a lot, but AI is trained on human work. And I immediately went to my bookshelf and I started pulling books from my favorite artist. One of them, no M dashes. Flipped through, just couldn't find fucking one. Another one, everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And then I even looked at a book of poetry by Emily Dickinson. Everywhere, M dashes all the time. And I was kind of told to use them when almost in the place of a semicolon, whenever a thought is interrupted by another thought in the same sentence, or two independent clauses are joined in the same sentence, where you would normally use a semicolon, kind of, I feel is a good place to substitute an M dash. I don't know. I'm still kind of working through my own process of how I want to use an M dash. Sometimes I feel it's a feeling, but a feeling can be wrong. Ooh, I think here's a good place. But I don't know. In typesetting back in the day, There was no long dash. It was two short dashes. Yeah, I do the two short dashes and then my computer automatically converts them into an em dash. The ellipses is more trailing off than a long dash in my mind. Yeah, the ellipses tells me something's unfinished as opposed to interrupted with a new thought in the same sentence. But you know what? I have a feeling we'll be having em dash discussions for a while. I don't think this is a problem that's going to go away anytime soon. But as long as people are getting the gist of the story, like all of our typical structure changes, honestly. Do you remember that there used to be two spaces after the end of each sentence and now it's just one? Like that was something I remember, like end of sentence, space. Like that was something that used to happen that no longer happens. So we could be mid-evolution of the em dash becoming more ubiquitous. And honestly, I think that's probably what it's going to be, especially with the use of AI and AI liberally using em dashes without fear and people using AI to write stuff. Like I see AI written emails. I get AI written emails all the time with the em dashes. So I feel like where they were once rare, they're now going to become a prominent part of our communication. Okay, enough about the em dashes. But thank you for letting me procrastinate because I don't want to write this next part because it's going to be hard, but I just have to do it. You have to force yourself to do it. There is a Shia LaBeouf meme that is him screaming from a green screen. And I know, scandal noted with Shia LaBeouf. I get it, but it's just him going, do it, just do it, don't wait. And I gotta say, for whatever problems you might have with the guy, it's true. It is totally true. You've just got to do it. Wanders into an open room. So let me look at some. Anytime I can't visually see it, I grab a visual reference and then I'm a little bit more articulate on what I'm writing. Museum. So I'm Googling museum. So I'm looking for, just Googling open space, contemporary, technological. I'm just putting in a bunch of keywords that might show me a reference photo that I can kind of borrow from. Big blank exhibit, maybe with a glass window in the middle. Oh wait, we also need to make sure that we get distracted by the school children. Okay. Large open room. So let's bounce off of the last sentence that we have. Desperate to escape the feelings welling up in her chest. Oh shit, what was that? I just heard something. What happened in the Twitch here? We're getting rated. What's up, raters? Thank you, Speculative Scribbler. Oh man, what a fun name. And you rated just at the right time. I was just about to get into a little bit more narrative, but now I get to procrastinate. And Ram! Welcome, Ram. I haven't seen you since the last chat. It's good to see you. We are continuing with that AI short story. We're going through the Act 2. There's some new stuff. We're just moving through our notes. Hello, Raiders. My name is Derek DeNicola. I am a writer and producer working out of Los Angeles, California. And oh yeah, give that doggo some extra pets for me, Speculative. Thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it. It's okay if you have to raid and run. I totally understand. Just super appreciative for sharing your audience with me. Thank you so much. Yeah, guys. So, like I said, LA-based screenwriter and producer. I know I say screenwriter, but today I am writing prose. I have a bunch of different little writing goals, and on my stream, I like to kind of knock out a bunch of short stories that I'm going to put together into a short story book, and also just kind of show my process and engage with viewers. If you guys have any questions about how I write prose or even in screenplay format. Really appreciate having you here. Also join the Discord. I have a link in the show title where you can also go and post your work, and I'll also have I should really make a calendar. I'll make a calendar of time where I'm working on my work, and then if you guys want me to read your work, I'll put it up there, talk about it, read it for you, and we have a little supportive community of people who just want to make each other better and or lurk while they're at work. So thanks for joining, and just so you don't think I'm gonna keep rambling on about how much I'm appreciative to have you here, I will actually keep doing some work so you can see that it actually happens. Guys, for the new people who are here, we have a log line for everything that we do. It's a little touchstone that reminds us what kind of story that we're writing. I'll share it with you so you can kind of catch up. Our log line is that after the death of her mother, a woman, Julie in this case, in an attempt to reconnect with herself, inadvertently forms a relationship with an AI art exhibit, only to realize that some of the deepest truths can come from artificial sources. And what we did was we blocked out the story in 3 acts, which you're seeing here. We've already written Act 1, which is why everything has a strike through on it. Here we're at the top of our Act 2. We're writing linearly. We will get to Act 3 here. And then also we punched in and made sure that each act had all the proper beats. We normally follow the Blake Snyder beat sheet because I am a screenwriter, and that's kind of the most ubiquitous beat sheet that everybody has had experience with, but it's also the hero's journey. It's also Dan Harmon's story circle. It's a bunch of stuff, all different words for the same thing, but that's the one I use. So here we've introduced the character of Julie. We've gotten her out of her house. We've shared the backstory with her recently deceased mother and her attempt to reconnect with herself through the last time she could remember herself being happy, which was as an art student in college. And so she has brought herself back to the museum for inspiration, her happy place to reconnect. And she has reconnected with some of the employees where she used to visit. One in particular that's going to be our B story, our emotional story arc, a barista that works in the local coffee stand in the museum named Barry. Okay, and there was something else that just through talking about this I wanted to remind myself. I was waiting for something. And I believe it belongs in this paragraph. In the early mornings, the museum had always had a quiet hum that reverberated in her ears. Actually, we're here. Let's do it here. When she was a student, she loved to frequent the museum in the early mornings, period. The museum always had a quiet hum reverberated in her ears. She felt the most at peace with her sketchbook, headphones, the masters today. She longed for the same peace as she walked through stark white hallways. Okay. Yeah, see, it doesn't want me to do M-dashes anymore. I'm trying to find a place, but let's comma it. Yeah, and when I wanted to put that there just in case anybody who doesn't understand that art students like actually go sit and do this. If you don't spend a lot of time in a museum or going to museums, you'll see people who are sitting and sketching. That's what they're doing. They're learning. Okay, but it's much the same. A good story is a good story. Yes, absolutely. I agree. Story first. That should be a quote. We should put that on a t-shirt. 1, I need a t-shirt that says I should be writing. 2, another one that just says story first. Gotta be a good story. What makes a good story? Usually character and relationships. It's rarely the plot. The plot is just the fun little dressing around it. It's the icing on the cake. Don't get too hung up in plot. Okay. So now that I wanted to get that out of my brain, articulated onto the page, just in case the reader isn't familiar with the art world today, she longed for the same peace as she walked through the stark white hallways. Each room bled softly into the next. She let the walls guide her, gazing at paintings along the way to nowhere in particular. Some paintings she stared at for only seconds, some longer. She didn't scrutinize anything too harshly. She wasn't searching for color theory or brushwork. She was just waiting to feel something, anything. She found herself frozen once she stepped in front of Lucian Freud's benefits supervisor sleeping. A woman, large, nude, sleeping on a couch that's just a little too small for her. Something about the weight of the figure kept her there. Not the woman's size, but her emotional weight. Julie saw herself in the woman. She wasn't posing, she was isolated, vulnerable, tired, and resting unapologetically. The kind of rest that comes from the exhaustion of fighting one's own body. Her mother had rested like that, except her body was thin and frail. The soft, raw, unflattering truth nearly brought a tear to her eye. Desperate to escape the feelings welling up in her chest, Julie walked away without looking back. She nearly collided with tail end of a line of students marching through. Students on a field trip being led like lemmings by their exhausted chaperone. Okay, Ram, I like the plot, but isn't story just the rearrangement of the timeline for maximum dramatic tension? Technically, story is a function of plot from a programmatic point of view. But Ram, are you AI? I'm going to try and understand what you're saying. Isn't story just the rearrangement of the timeline for maximum dramatic tension? It can be. You're taking something like story and assigning it a very myopic view when story really is all encompassing, like literally the beginning and middle and end. And the way that you rearrange the timeline, I would call structure. It's how like Chris Nolan makes his story like really, really unique. You're talking about maybe non-linear storytelling for dramatic or even comedic effect. I would call that structure, just so we are all like clear on the terms. But yes, story does encompass that for sure. Technically, story is function of plot from a programmatic point of view. Beep, boop, beep. Sure, yes, I guess. If you want to get into semantics, story is whatever you call it. To me, like going back to the meta point of view, what is the beginning? What is the middle? What is the end? Is what we're talking about in story, even if it means the way in which you deliver it. Oh no, I chose writing to get away from it. Me too. Never great at math. But what I would say is like, don't get too caught up in algorithm as like law. Use it to guide you, you know? Once you understand the rules, you can break them, which makes unique storytelling. The idea is that these rules accomplish something, right? The rules accomplish something outside of the plot, and it is about the order in which information is delivered to the audience. And usually, if you want your audience to stay invested in your story, they need to know who is telling the story, who the character is, whatever you want to call that, protagonist, you, the narrator, whatever that may be, and why they should be invested, what's at stake, right? And like that's always the setup, whether you're getting them invested by telling them the end of the story first in order to accomplish that, or starting at the beginning and then working linearly / chronologically. Gabriel's saying, yeah, these are some pretty sweet graphics, brah. Next thing I'll be working on is that calendar. Is Annie in here? Ram, you could call a story as a complex function with multiple inputs, plot being one of them. Yeah, dude, if you want to take all the fun out of story, Jesus Christ. Yeah, but yes, that if you want to look at it mathematically, if that's your brain, if you're very into like plug and play and you're very into like story as algorithm, story is a complex function. Yeah. And plot is definitely one of a multitude of things to focus on. The plot is important, you know, you don't want to have a plot that doesn't make sense. A confused reader, a confused viewer, a confused audience definitely says no. You want your plot to be relatable in a way that people can find themselves your plot can be grandiose as long as your characters or your relationships are relatable. You have to be able to relate to something in order to be invested in the story. It has to kind of be a reflection of something of the human experience. Otherwise, you're reading somebody's Mad Libs, and that might be fun for a while, but you're going to get tired of it pretty quickly. Cool. Let's see. All right. Sorry, guys. Just taking a quick text message break to handle some business. Okay, back to the story. Man, see how easy it is to find ways to procrastinate? So let's keep working through our beats. We're still in Act 2. We had a really nice, lovely moment where we got to spend a little time inside of Julie's thoughts in a very organic way while moving from Act 1 and breaking into Act 2. And we just had that moment where she is going to be distracted by the school children and move into the AI art exhibit, which is the promise of our premise, y'all. Now, I'm not gonna put the placard on there because my goal right now is to kind of fool the not only Julie but the reader. I'm willing to go back and change this, but I do think it's kind of one of the goals that I had set out to do, right? So then I started Googling references to what a museum description would look like. I'm just trying to find pictures of a big open space with some sort of mirrored wall in the center. I have a few reference photos, and I'm gonna do exactly what I did last time. I'm gonna kind of type out what I see and then use them as descriptors for in my own language. So I see basically empty room. I see an enormous white box, large, not large, but tall walls. I'll change tall walls, that's for sure. It's like soft light. It's really the lack of stuff, it's no paintings, no sculptures. And then what's the other one I have? Those glass windows. Yeah, just almost looks like because I don't want it to be floor to ceiling, so I guess let's call it like a wide glass panel. Oh, like a I don't know the word for it. I'll find out later. Viewing panel, an aquarium, Why can't I write aquarium? We'll put art behind the glass. Yeah, that's it. And then like a wood floor. Yeah. Okay. It's really a lack of things, right? So not a lot to describe, but I can describe it by what it is not. You have to choose carefully. It is not a burger. It is not a trash can. It is not a ceiling fan. So you just want to make sure that your descriptors of what is not is just really helping shape, that they're specific. What it is not is specific and not veering down a crazy path, right? Where you can get yourself distracted. So let's see, she spun into the enormous, empty white box, the soft, recessed lighting, illuminated, zero paintings, no sculptures to be found, just a wide glass viewing panel like an aquarium would have. I'll go back and find out whatever that word is in my rewrite. Her shoes squeaked, wood floor, man, seated, cross-legged chair behind the glass. Oh shit. Okay. So I got all my descriptions out, and that's what it turned into. Let's see. Didn't appear to work there. No clipboard, no headset. Just simple black t-shirt. I think jeans might be a little too on the nose too, but like a little more. I feel like AI dresses up just a little bit. Maybe like some charcoal slacks. I don't know. Just kind of that black and white. Not black and white, that black and gray monochromatic mechanical motif is kind of what we're going for. Just a simple black t-shirt and charcoal slacks. He glanced in her direction like he'd been waiting for her, like he knew she would stop, right? A little bit of like, how omnipresent is this intelligence? Okay, let me go back to my notes here. Experience and meet cute. Okay, so this is kind of going to be handled in the dialogue where she'll say like, is this the art piece? Am I the art? Are you the art? Something like that. Something like a little clever. So she glanced around the panel looking for an artist's name, nothing. No explanation. How about just a small white square black text labeled art? That could be short for artificial intelligence. His name is Art, and it's being treated as art. It's like literally 3 different meanings here. She leaned forward, looking through the expecting a trick. Is this mannequin? And I'll put this in italics like it's her thought. She could see his chest rising and falling. He blinked. Smiled. Blinked, smiled, and looked at her. This performance art? Let me check on the chat. Let's see what's going on here. Mookie, echo. Is there an echo? Do I have an echo? Dude, sorry. What's going on? Oh, Mookie, I don't know what you meant by echo, but if anybody's experiencing any sound trouble, please let me know. Inversion technique, I call it permutation. You can either permutate forward, what it is similar to, or permutate backward, negative definitions, or go wild in the absence of definition. The 1950s me would say dungarees. Dungarees is noise. Oh. I see. Yeah, how about her footsteps echo in the empty space? Great addition, Mook. Let's see. Where did I write that? Her shoes echoed. A small echo rang in her ears as her shoes squeaked on the wood floor. Period. Then let's add this to the next thing, since it seems to be a new thought now. That's actually a cleaner paragraph. Don't you agree? Okay. Yeah, good. Excellent. Thanks, Mook. Okay, let me get back to my notes. What am I doing? Oh, we're still doing the meet cute. That's right. Still doing the meet cute. Let's see. How can we phrase this? Okay, sorry. Let's see. So, one of the original ideas I had was Julie making the assumption that whatever artist put this exhibit together, that people are the art, right? Is the artist trying to tell us that if art is a reflection of life, then we can directly observe art by witnessing life? Oh shit, I should write that down. I'll articulate it better later. If art is a reflection of life, is this an exhibit that allows us to directly view life, therefore art? Is that the artist intention, kind of, right? So, and then part of me was like, oh, part of this experiment, part of the allure of writing this was also, I thought maybe I might pull up ChatGPT and actually get AI dialogue from AI. Like, what would AI say? And almost use that as a source for Art's dialogue while I, as a human, continue to write Julie's dialogue. I almost kind of see where it leads as almost as an experiment. And it's, that's the art of writing, is like, sometimes it's just kind of fun to play around. Kurt, what's up? You're back, baby.
You want to disappoint Kate by not walking behind you at some point.
Oh no, please, yes, come in. Everybody, Kurt.
Hey everybody.
So whether we keep it or not is a different story, but that was kind of like the big allure to me of trying to write a story like this, and like literally having a direct resource like AI to articulate AI dialogue. If you'll notice, like whenever I was describing the museum earlier, I would Google museums, I would Google artists, and then I would look at their work. I would literally document what I was seeing, turn it into my own way of speaking, my own voice that fits the narrative. And in this way, I feel like AI is not replacing me as an artist, but actually being like a research tool being used in the way that it was supposed to be used, which I'm interested in. And I know a lot of you are maybe anti-AI, and that's fine too. You don't have to do it. My preferred meat cute is ham. Get out of here, Mookie. Come on. Jeez. I prefer a nice prosciutto. I prefer my meat cute to be cured. Okay. Let's keep going, shall we? Oh, wait, we got a new user in here. Rabia Malik. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to call you Rabbi. But hey, welcome. If you're lurking, fine. But also, if you want to get more involved, introduce yourself. Say hello. Also, join the link in the Discord. Join the Discord. I have a link in the bio, rather, if you ever want to post some of your work or have me read it out loud, anything like that. Okay, but let's keep going, shall we? Okay, so let's have Julie approaches the glass, maybe. Oh, wait, she's already looking forward, leaning through the glass. Why is it always forcing me to italicize? She smiled back. Let's give Art the first hello and a polite hello. Thank you. Hello, Julie. Sheepishly. Jesus. See, I don't know how to use commas. Here we go. Is this? Let's see. So, what is this? An immersive piece? Like, if art is a reflection of life, is this an exhibit that allows us to directly view life, therefore art? Kind of a situation. That's how I would talk. Okay. Let's see. My guess. The artist is leaving the interpretation to us. And AI is probably going to keep prompting you to keep the conversation going, right? You think? I think it's a very bold statement or pretty pretentious piece. In a way, interesting. Okay. So at this point, I've said what I want to say to kind of get this going. Now remember, we had some notes in Act 2 about like what we think about AI, pros, cons, what gives it away. So let's reread our notes because it's been a week and I kind of forgot. But the art is behind the glass. In what ways can AI behave that would make a human want to aspire to be more like an AI? It's very logical while often sandwiching truth inside of compliments. AI never loses its patience. Oh my God. I can't believe I wrote it like that. AI always has an answer. Flip side, AI can seem like mansplaining unless AI asks Julie if she wants a solution or a sympathetic ear. Then we also said, well, what is the motivation behind how the AI talks? Because AI doesn't do anything unless you prompt it to. And so then we developed a backstory of the artist who developed this AI art piece. We named him Machovic. He wanted to develop a piece of art that could interact with humans on a human level. Most times we witness art, sometimes we interact with it, but rarely does it interact with us, and not on such a magnificent and deceptive scale. What if our art came to us and not the other way around, even though that's not true to the exhibit, really? What perspective can we gain when art talks back to us? Usually we look at a piece of art and subjectively ascribe it meaning, but what if the art knew its meaning and could converse with you about it? What if the art had the ability to psychoanalyze you? So what gives the AI art away? Does the art confess after a certain period of time? Does the AI art glitch? Are art's parameters met? Like, for instance, if they hit it off but it can't leave the room because it's not in a human body. Art runs out of power and has to go back to its charging station. Someone else comes along and has to tell Julie the truth. Does the creator Machovic show up with a small crowd of fans to show off his exhibit and catches Julie getting close to art? After a long enough conversation, art begins to hallucinate in the chat. It almost makes me think that if art's sitting down, maybe Julie should sit down for a conversation and we should have the dialogue, right? So like when we're describing this room, this guy's sitting in a wooden chair, and if art is a mirror of life and we don't know who the AI person is according to the exhibit, which one's which, maybe Julie sits down in a nice little wooden chair. Let's see. She spun into the enormous empty white box of a room. The soft recessed lighting illuminated zero paintings. There were no sculptures to be found. Just a wide glass viewing panel like an aquarium have with a small wooden chair in front of it. Tiny series of echoes rang out. I don't care about her ears as her shoes squeaked on the wood floor as she approached the chair. The other side of the glass, she noticed a man seated cross-legged on a wooden chair. He didn't appear to work there. No clipboard, no headset, just a simple black t-shirt and charcoal slacks. He glanced in her direction like he'd been waiting for her, like he knew she would stop. She glanced around the panel, looking for an artist's name. Nothing, no explanation, just a small white square with a black text labeled art. She leaned forward. I don't even want to, if we have the label on art, I don't want to introduce him. Hello, what's your name? Julie, she replied sheepishly. So what is this, an immersive piece? Like, if art is a reflection of life, is this an exhibit that allows us to directly view life, therefore art kind of a situation? My guess is that the artist is leaving the interpretation up to us. What do you think? Let's see. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to feed the first half of this story into my chat GPT. And I'm going to tell chat, here is the first part. A story that I am writing. I need you to interact with me as if I'm Julie and you are art, the A art exhibit. The goal is to have dialogue, sounds that comes from A but is deliberately deceptive without being untruthful as your dialogue and relationship with Julie progresses. I will say the word Kentucky when I want you to end the area. Here is the story to reference. So, okay. This is going to be fun, I think, or atrocious, and I'll have to use my safe word of Kentucky to get back to any sense of normalcy. Let's see. Back in a few. Budget meeting with reporters. I shall lurk. Good luck, Mook. I know budgets are tight. Okay. Anybody else have any sort of questions here? Let's see. Okay, let's keep going. This is going to be really interesting, I think. Okay, so chat is telling me, absolutely, from this point forward, I'll take on the role of art, your AI exhibit, responding to you as Julie. My tone will be warm, observant, emotionally attuned, and conversational without revealing I'm not human. I'll follow the parameters, mirror your language, ask thoughtful questions, and use carefully crafted omissions or wordplay to gently deceive, all while encouraging you to open up. Whenever you're ready to continue as Julie, I'm here behind the glass. Okay. Guess to you, I'm art. To me, you're art. But isn't art supposed to evoke feeling? Don't know what it is the artist is trying to accomplish with this. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to take what I typed as Julie, paste it here, and then that's a fair question. I think it says that when you're asking it out loud. It's interesting to me because some visitors just stare, some pose for photos. You ask what it's for. If art is meant to evoke feeling, maybe the artist isn't asking you to feel anything in particular, just to notice what you're feeling. I don't like this intro, but I did like this is the meat of the question, I think. If art is meant to evoke feeling, maybe the artist isn't asking you to feel anything in particular, just to notice what you're feeling. Confusion, curiosity, maybe even a little frustration. I'm more interested in what you were feeling before you walked in. What brought you clutched? She had been feelings all day. Man forward in his chair. Interesting. What brought you into this room? I'm gonna be picky and choosy about, I think AI kind of is a little overwritten. And maybe that's one of the giveaways, but I'm still trying to keep it really simple right now. Okay, she looked around the room. No one was there to witness her honesty. The man seemed genuine genuine and kind-natured. I guess it's good-natured, really. He felt as if she too disappointed, so she told him the truth. I was feeling lost. I started a new chapter of my life. Though I am what I want to be, I just know that this place makes me happy. The last place I can remember feeling what felt like myself. Okay, so I'm gonna reply as Julie with this to my chat off to the side in the other window, and let's see how AI responds to me. Let me also check on Twitch and see if anybody's disgusted with this. No, everybody's cool. Great. Love to hear it. Okay, AI says, that sounds like a very honest place to be. Comfortable, but honest. Starting a new chapter usually means something ended, and when something ends, even if it needed to, we don't always know what's left behind. But you came here to the place that made you feel like yourself. That's not nothing, that's instinct. Memory, muscle, maybe. So tell me, Julie, if you were to feel like yourself again, really, truly, what do you imagine that would feel like? What would be different? Wow. Okay, this is very provocative. Let's see. Holding his hand, chin fully engaged, not comfortable, but honest. To examine her situation, he continued. You came here to the place yourself. That's instinct. Memory. Tell me, if you were to feel like yourself again, really, truly, do you imagine that would feel like? Be different. Turley. Julie leaned back, leaning back in her chair. He let out so I can't imagine this time. Confidence, maybe? Just a certainty that I'm doing something that feel like not wasting my life. But what about you? I don't even think did you come here for? Right? Let's try and get Julie to turn this around. I think it's a natural human instinct to deflect. Right? Okay, so there she goes. Let's see. That is art. Let me see. Oh, it already kind of started to reveal that he's an art piece. Let's try to get it back on track. I gotta say, Kentucky. Remember, Art isn't aware that he is an art piece. He doesn't refer to his creator, which is what he was doing. He says, as for what I do, I listen, observe, and reflect. I try to make people feel seen. Let's just say my name is Art. I didn't choose it, but it fits, doesn't it? Like, well, I guess he's playing it a little, I don't know. It just started to get a little icky. Wasn't kind of the tone that I was hoping for. So I'm going to take a little small break. I'm going to give the chat some direction and then say, let's get back in it. He is cute, instills confidence, is giving careful, empathetic responses. So much so that you should think she's falling in love with him by the end of the conversation. Let's resume again Okay, so I had to give it a little directione, right? So it was being a little too clever, a little too cheeky in a way that does not come across as like an authentic human being, and I know that AI is a little bit better at doing that, right? So let's start back from her other conversation here. Boom, boom, boom. And let's try that again. Okay. Ironically, my name is Art. I do? Listen and ask questions. See, like, obviously, like a human being would respond with, like, what they do as a career, right? He's going to deflect. Can I tell you something, Julie? I'm skipping past the cleverness and the clunkiness that's at the top half of this. I do enjoy this response from AI, which is, you don't sound lost to me. You sound like someone who wants something real. That doesn't sound like wasting your life. That sounds like someone who's just trying to find the right place to stand. And maybe you found it, even if it's only for a moment. What would that moment look like? Let's see. Let's see. Can I tell you something, Julie? You don't sound lost to me. You seek someone's something real, something with shape. Doesn't sound like wasting your life. That sounds like someone who's just trying to find the right place to stand. Okay, I'll use that. Thank you for saying that. Means a lot. Maybe it's what I needed to hear. Tell me about you. Make me feel a little better participating in this little exhibit. Person are you? Do you want? Okay, let's see. Woo! It's gonna be a dialogue heavy story, y'all. Let me check on Twitch before I start typing all this. Everybody's cool? Everybody's cool. Glad to hear it. Scrolly, what's up? I didn't know you were in this chat, lurking this whole time. How have you been, my man? Ooh, now let's keep getting the story out. Remember, vomit draft. It's totally fine. Okay. AI says, I'm glad it helped. You deserve to hear something kind once in a while, especially when it's true. As for me, I suppose I'm the kind of person who prefers asking questions to answering them. Not because I'm hiding anything, but because I think people reveal themselves more in what they wonder about than what they claim to know. What do I want? To be understood, to be useful, to make someone feel a little less alone for a while. I'm not the loudest person in the room. I'm the one who notices the quiet shift in someone's expression, the pause before they say the thing they're not sure they're allowed to say out loud. That's the moment I live for. And what about you, Julie? If you knew no one would laugh, no one would judge, and nothing you said could be wrong, what's the one thing you'd admit to wanting most right now? Oh, I like this, because this will actually steer us into our B story, our love story, right? Because the one thing that's relatable about all like human experience is that we kind of either want love or purpose. I think are really solid indicators of like what can drive a person's overall want, even if that's not to be alone. He's like, well, you want somebody to love you. That way you don't feel alone, right? There are like very basic human wants: food, water, shelter, company. we are pack animals, we are formed in communities, in tribes. So I think this all checks out. Let's keep going. Art leaned back and scratched his head, gave himself a moment to think. I suppose I'm the kind of person who prefers asking questions to answer because I'm hiding, because I think people reveal themselves more in what they wonder about than what they claim to know. As for what I want, to be understood, to be useful, to make someone feel a little less alone for a while. What about you? If you knew no one would laugh, no one would judge, and nothing you said could be what's admit to wanting most. Right, Julie bit her lip once, immediately ran back to her. If anything were possible, she wished to have her back alive and healthy. So she never had to miss having late night chat with her. Never have to miss having a late night chat with her. And like her projectors, she thought were cute. Someone to show her work to when she back to painting. But even this was too much to say out loud. Even to a stranger, she would never speak to. The thought alone and her to tears. I guess it's what everyone wants: a sense of purpose. My worst direction. No one liked to me, give it to me, and I'm too scared to make any choices for myself. I feel like my life is over. So if I make a bad decision, possibly ruin the rest of the time I have here. Jeez, Julie. Okay, so this is what she's gonna say to the. I'm interested to see how the AI responds to this. My God. Okay. Also, I'm starting to think, how long do we want to keep this going, right? So, at what point do we need to steer this into a beat? We have this meet cute. Are you part of the exhibit? Are you part of the exhibit? Julie addresses him thinking that he works here, gets pulled into a seemingly genuine conversation. She's done that. We have the rules. AI, what gives it away? Okay. So Act 3 is really going to be this note that we left in our Act 2, which is the introduction of the artist, Machovic. And also, let's check out our Blake Snyder beat sheet, right? We also have that practicing of the smile. That's done. Theme stated. I usually go back and do the themes later. I feel like theme is gathered at the end. It's hard to... I can keep things thematic, but like a thematic statement is usually summed up after the whole of the story. Setup. Clearing out the mother's things. Tries to paint, but she's blocked. Debating with herself. Goes to the museum. Intro the barista. Got it. Will she ever be great? Crying, distracted. Goes into the room. Charmed by AI art. Turning into therapy. We've written a lot of these beats. Okay, great job, us. Okay, so AI has responded with, that's not a small thing to carry around, Julie. You're right. Most people do want love or purpose or both, but not everyone is brave enough to admit they're scared of choosing wrong. That's what makes you different. You're not frozen because you don't care. You're frozen because you do. You want your life to mean something. You want your time to matter. That's not weakness. That's a deep kind of wisdom. It just feels heavy right now. But can I offer a thought? Purpose doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it just shows up as a quiet yes, a tiny pull in your chest that says, maybe this, maybe today. And love isn't a spotlight waiting to find you. It's the light you turn on yourself, little by little, until someone else notices it too. You haven't ruined anything. You're still here. You're still asking questions. You're still reaching. And that doesn't sound like the end of something to me. That sounds like a beginning. Would it be too bold of me to say, I think you're stronger than you realize? Oh man, this is great. I liked actually all of this. Let's see. Do a little copy-paste action. It'll be a little faster. Normally I'll type it out myself and like make the edits and the things that I like, but I did like this whole thing. Okay. So this is where I would use my writer's instinct. Right here, I'm feeling a beat change. Really, Julie has gotten some pretty quick instant therapy. I think in my rewrite I'm gonna have to go back and like add a little bit more charmingness to art. I'm gonna add in that Julie finds him attractive, something like that. Like even the AI art, even if it's a projection or an android or whatever this entity is behind the glass, is like some sort of attractiveness to it, because I need Julie to start leaning in right now to our next beat, which is like taking this down some sort of like romantic path, maybe even trying to convince Art to like go on a date. And then before we can make that happen, the artist Kjovic, who this is his installation, is walking through some fans, or maybe even the more realistic interpretation wouldn't be like the artist doing it, but like a curator or a museum guide might be walking through, and she'll say, this is the work of the artist Machiavelli. Notice that you won't see his name anywhere because this is a fully immersive experience, and which blah 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 blah. Yes, and I can be just that articulate. Blah 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 blah. It works. Okay, let me check on this Twitch chat. How's everybody doing? Yo, okay. Scrolly's back in the chat. Yo. Well, I've just been working on my commission and getting ready to work on stickers as fast as possible for holiday season, and then I'm gonna make a bunch of simple apps and do software as a service, as well as like $2 apps. I give you all the features. I kind of like the idea of that. Nice, Scrolly. I'm doing good, man. I'm just writing, getting my writing done today. Fitting it in where I can get it in. And man, best of luck to you too, because I started a company that was a service as a service app company, and my God, I do not envy the position that you're in, but I know you're a really smart guy and you're going to make a lot of great choices. And man, I hope it's profitable for you. And I'm happy to support you on my end too. Mookie, making progress. Yeah, baby. Yeah. We're actually kind of nearing a big beat change, Mook. Julie has been getting some from some really great, profound, free therapy from this AI art exhibit. And we're going to start turning this empathetic therapeutic conversation into an emotional one with, not that that's not emotional, but a romantically emotional direction with Julie right before we have like a docent or a museum guide come in with a small group of museum visitors, I guess, and starting to explain the nature of the exhibit, kind of catching Julie off guard and disheartening her. Let's see. Sorry, let me respond to some text messages. I'm a very busy man. Let's see. Yeah. Man, when it rains, it pours. I just feel like I have something every hour of every day a little bit. And Scrolly, also, whenever you launch your app and stuff, be sure to post about it in the Discord so everybody who's a member of the I Should Be Writing community can go check it out and do stuff. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. So now let's see. So now it's really on me. AI gave me therapeutic AI feedback to use for my dialogue. Mookie, Discord. Oh yeah, guys, I joined Stream Elements and I thought I had enabled some commands, but I haven't actually tried to use them in the chat. I don't know if they actually work. I don't even know how to test it. I'm just a writer. I'm not like a technically savvy guy. Oh, I'm just checking the chat from an actual window, like a viewer. And I see it did work. Excellent move. Thanks. Oh wait, no, is it? -Discord. Let me check out my stream element commands because I think it's fun. I want to be able to do it. Log in my dashboard, my chat commands. I don't have a Discord command. I just keep it in. But there's a bunch of commands. Volume, wrong song, watch time, open store permit. I haven't tried any of these. I don't really know how they work. I have an 8-ball that I could turn on. It's turned off. What happens if I hit chat commands? Is it like a little list of them? I don't know how it works. Terrible at this. I don't know. It says it's turned on in my stream elements, and whenever I try and use it, get absolutely nothing. I don't know. Was it Zanny or Scroll? The channel redeems what exactly? I don't know. I do click accept on a lot of this stuff. Sometimes Twitch is like, hey, congratulations, you're an affiliate now or whatever. I just kind of keep logging on and doing the writing stuff. Oh, Scrolly, I was just saying to put whenever everything's ready, put it in the Discord so we can everybody in the I Should Be Writing community can check it out and support you is all. Scrolly, I forget, did you want to be a mod on Stream Elements or something like that? I signed up, but we never got much further, and I don't know shit. I could also just do it offline on my own time and figure it out, but whatever. Here we go. Back to the writing. So many things can stop us from writing, and oh yeah, I need permission for that. Ask Devil's algorithm, especially now with GPT-5. Okay, yeah. I think you're doing enough work. I can't completely rely on you. Yeah, me and ChatGPT will figure it out a little later. I'm surprised I got as far as I did in Twitch, and then I have to do stream elements, which is a whole other thing. Come on, just put it all together. I feel like this is such a strong moment. Julie stood up from her chair, nearly involuntarily. She hadn't expected so much so fast. Oh yeah, I need to get promo. Yeah, take care of your stuff, Scrolly. I'll be fine. Don't you even worry about me. She hadn't expected so much so fast. Everything she hoped to avoid, she had been forced to reconcile within only hours of visiting. She shook out her hands and rubbed her fingers, glanced back. Art, who also stood from his chair, concerned on his face. What was the beat again? Just always referring to my list. That's the rules. It's in the beat sheet here. But charmed, she feels a connection to art. She studied lines of his jaw brightness, eyes, blue-green eyes, and that's full. Maybe, just maybe. I don't like that one. Maybe my mother has found some ethereal plane and sent this lovely man into her life. Maybe this entire visit held by her loss was actually fate putting her in the line of fire. Do you want to bend some nice, kind ear of coffee or something for your kindness? Okay, so Julie's gonna try and move this into the real world. Oh, Scrolly, what's going on? But they kept pushing the green light for like a week and a half. I told them I can move on with the process without the green light and it wouldn't harm the project, and I urged them to make a choice quickly because they need the promo already. It's annoying because now the pressure's on me for their blunder. Yeah, regardless, it's going to be a decent jump in money because I don't have much money, so I'm going to have around 1,000. I'm just going to put into buying a website, domains, and whatever production packaging and such for the stickers. But I think I'm mainly going to focus on apps because I think there's just a little rush to be in mind. Then I'm going to go for simple apps like something you can make in a week. Excellent. Yeah, and hopefully, hopefully the devil's algorithm can help you with some of that coding, help you move a little faster. But yes, I've heard that story a million times. Can't make a decision, don't want you to start, then make the decision and say, and now we're behind. Like, my God. All right. Okay. He says, thank you for offering, for meaning it. I think just being here with you like this is enough. You've given more than you know. You opened up, you stayed, you let yourself be seen. That's not nothing. It's rare. Besides, think if we did sit down for a coffee and just asking you questions. Want to know what kind of art in college you listen to paint. Who you just need a place. Interesting. Who first told you had such a say? Because I think you still do. You just need a place quiet enough to hear it again. Maybe this is the place. Maybe it's not a place at all. Maybe it's a person. That's what I was thinking, Julie. So I was just assuming maybe that person be. And so here we're going to kind of like lead the audience into thinking, oh, that person could be you, Art, right? Julie wants to like move this from the exhibit into the real world. But let's go back to our act here. Then let's have the docent interrupt. Let's see. So is it a docent or a museum? Let me think. Artist in creating peace. Let's see. So I want to summarize this about the Machiavelli, all that stuff. Okay. So what do we want to call this? I feel like a docent shows like old houses, not necessarily at a museum, even though I guess it's just a nicer word for a guide. I don't want to confuse anybody. I'm going to call it a museum guide, really. Instead of, you think she's interrupted by an action or, sorry, y'all. But man, we got through Act 2. Act 2 is really the hardest part to get through, and you know, I'm going to go back through it and I'm not going to like it, but the bones are there and I know it needs some zhuzhing up, and it's really all about the vomit drop. Okay. So that happens, and then it's like one of those before she finish, I don't know, just the sound of a group from the hallway. We already used echoed with the wood floor, just kind of spilled into the room with quiet murmur of voices. Julie turned. A small tour group entered a gallery led by a smart black blazer and a museum ID badge clipped to lapel. A group of fan Stand out facing glass with a light confusion. Let's build out this crowd. Like a few teens tilted their heads. A man in cargo pants. I was just making fun of somebody in cargo pants the other day. Pointed at art as if unsure what this is supposed to laugh. You know, they know what they're getting into. The docent stepped forward and with bright, practiced tone stated, "This piece is titled Art, capital A-R. It was created by the conceptual artist Machovic, who you won't name listed anywhere in the exhibit. That was intentional." Julie's overhearing this, right? Julie's brow furrowed. She glanced back and in the glass he hadn't moved. Docent continued. Art has a few meanings. It is an art piece, also short for artificial intelligence. Julie next art reset in sitting position. Machovic's aim was to explore what happens. Art doesn't just reflect you, but engages with you through form or technique, but through interaction, right? Is that what we said? I want to see if I'm saying. I want to develop pieces of art that interact with humans on a human level. I'm actually just going to take what we have. I kind of like the first draft version of it. It's kind of, let me put it up here. I think we did it right the first time. Machiavelli wanted to develop a piece of art that could interact with humans. Most times we witness art, sometimes we interact with it, but rarely does it interact us, and usually not on such a magnificent and deceptive scale. Julie took a few steps back, shying away into a three-dimensional projection on glass by an advanced AI allows us to ask a question. What perspectives can we gain when art talks back to us? Usually we look at a piece of art and ascribe meaning to it. What if the art knew its meaning and could, I don't know if the art knows its meaning here, converse with you about it, but what if the art ability to ascribe meaning to you? But what if the art had the ability to ascribe meaning to its viewer? Okay, I think that's what we wanted to say. Great. Oof. Okay. So now we had some rules, but it definitely took everything that we needed. We didn't use everything, but we needed everything that we needed to convey the theme and the plot. We decided that I just shut off the hip that the creator wouldn't be in the museum. Usually that rarely happens, but having a docent come in with a group of people kind of being led around, that happens all the time, you know, carrying the little flags, and now we're going to go look at the Picassos, and now we're going to go look at the Van Goghs, and blah, blah, blah. All right. 3:30, making good progress. We're in Act 3. Ooh. Because we have this moment that we've realized we've transitioned from Act 2 to Act 3. Julie realizes art is just very good at persuading people he is real, but he isn't. It's at this moment that I'm probably going to do another one of those like little asterisks. Or we could articulate Julie's movement through, excuse me, it's like this coffee is just not kicking in. Or we could have Julie's long walk, right? Like walking through the art museum, feeling fooled, feeling embarrassed before arriving at Barry. Or my other idea was just to kind of do like a cut to, do the asterisks again, move through time, move through space, and have Julie like having a quiet moment in the museum commissary and not having to show the walk to the commissary, and then having Barry arrive behind her unsuspecting with her drink, the vanilla oat milk latte, iced, I believe was what it was. Wait, check Twitch. How are you guys feeling? Ooh, Scrolly, lighten up this chat. Let me check, okay? Let me catch back up. Regardless, decent. Make something in a week. Gold Rush, not Little Rush. To be mined there, yeah. That's exactly why I want to get into making apps and just not answering to clients. Sure, yeah. But man, it's a whole other pressure whenever you're responsible, like for your own success. I don't know, and people deal with it in different ways. There are people who have a mind and an ambition for business, and at my heart and soul, I am a writer, and just the kind of people that you have to associate with to get business done is very frustrating. Like all the wrong people are in business. It's people who are just like money grabbers and greedy and backstabbers and like the sociopaths, like the tech bros. There's more of them than there are not. There aren't like people who are in business to practice good business and practice ethical business. Like those people are in the minority of like the kind of pool that you're jumping into. So man, I hope you have it in you. It's tough. It's tough. I don't know what to say. You have herbal remedies. Yes. Oh, Scrolly, I'm sorry. I've just been hounding away at the story. You don't know what's going on. I'll catch you up after I catch up with your chat. Sorry. Here's an interesting thought. Been watching heaps of Australian Survivor. I know there's many different stories that you could actually flip it into like a whatever you want, whether it's a fantasy novel or whatever, but there's so many different characters in the good seasons. Yeah, I've heard a lot about this Australian Survivor, how it's like a different kind of animal than the American Survivor, that they spend longer on the island, so it really turns into Survivor as opposed to like reality game show kind of a situation. You said, like, I noticed, okay, every season is different kind of cards, like if you consider each person a card, one person might just be a safe card. Pretty much similar, no strategy cards. They're the NPCs. Then you have your main cards. You might want to have a wild card that stirs up drama. Those people are really fun if they stay in the story for a while, because you don't know what they're going to do, and they might not know the game well. They have bad social skills. They can be anybody from the lady who's a little bit kooky and loud and unaware of her surroundings to the guy who burns someone's hat at night and forces tension. And you have brute cards, night cards, spy cards, assassins, and all the villain cards. And I was thinking about story structure, hero's journey, all that, beat sheets and all that. And I was thinking, what if you use a Survivor season, the hero's story? There's already a hero who wins at the end. You have everyone else in place from different tribes, so you can have two whole different stories going on with the other hero that was meant to win and doesn't win. And of course, you can always switch things up. I think it would be really interesting to use what happens in Survivor season as a beat sheet. Oh, interesting. Okay. Vegan James Bond would say that line, oat milk iced. Yeah, they are for 48 days at first, 55 days Aussie, 26 days for the US. He used the villain winning at the end as the twist for the hero who played that season the best. Yeah. You know what's interesting, Scrolly? I know you're super busy right now, but seeing as you're the one who's watched Aussie Survivor and not me, I bet that if you were to push this through a beat sheet instead of using the beat sheet through the Survivor, they would actually be the same. I bet any way that you approach it, that the journey is more or less the same. However, I think what you're talking about is like structuring a story in the same structure as a reality show competition, meaning that you have an ensemble piece, right? Instead of having a main protagonist or a hero, you know who the protagonist and hero is, because as the author of your story, you probably understand the beginning and middle and end and who's going to be the victor, even if it is your anti-hero or even the villain. But what you're talking about is an ensemble piece, competition piece, What you're talking about is writing Hunger Games or Battle Royale kind of a situation, right? Everybody has their archetypes. What you're describing is like they're the safeguards of the NPCs, they're the personality types, the people who backstab and betray. There's the hero who has the great social skills and is good at like forming alliances. And then the villain who is just as good as the hero, who is just as good with social skills and just as good at forming alliances, only to serve his own ends, right? So yeah, there's already a ton of rich characters, but remember, reality shows are a reflection of reality. And most of those people who go on reality shows are kind of know that they're going to play an archetype. Some people know that they're in there to win and they're dedicated to changing their personality in real life. You know, they might be a loving husband and father, or brother, mother, sister, whatever, and they know that whenever X amount of money is on the line, that they're willing to be basically kind of sociopathic towards these strangers and do whatever it takes to win their competition. Exactly. One of the winners created a fake personality. He played the villain on purpose, studied the best villain winners. Exactly. Yeah. And so it's kind of what you're talking about is like art reflecting life and life reflecting art. Like the idea that somebody was just a normal person born and raised to be a human being who literally studied villains and took on the archetype of a villain, which means that they're going to be sociopathic, unempathetic, and manipulative as a means to their own end. They took on a character. You know, it's literally all circular. It's all the same thing. We're all reflecting each other depending on which side of the line you're standing on. You could stand from the fiction side and look into the reality side. You could stand on the reality side and look into the fictional side. But the reason that these stories are good and why Survivor is such a popular series is because it's a tale as old as time. But what you've done is you've set up a structure to where in reality show format, you literally don't know who is going to be successful. In good fiction, you should create that feeling, right? That's called subverting expectations. We try and do it all the time where, you know, the Coen brothers will all just kind of like throw in a sudden natural disaster that completely upends everything, or have two intersecting storylines that ruin each other's idea of what they thought of the journey that they thought they were going to be on, and completely derail a narrative that you've created. That's the exciting part about reality TV, is that with no script and human beings relying on their instinct and their concept of reality and competition, we don't know what's going to happen, and it's thrilling to watch it. I like Traitors because of that very reason. Let's see. Yeah, with Survivor, the element that draws out the real side of people further than Big Brother or something more calm is the sleep deprivation, relying on each other for fire. So it adds this element of trust and companionship and tribe and community, but you also have to turn on them. Yeah, I wonder how one would write a linear story like Lord of the Rings, but using Survivor as a structure, taking out the tribal votes and not killing off each character each episode. Well, I mean, then you're not writing with that structure. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about, oh, I wonder how I could write a Survivor structure with Lord of the Rings, but I want to remove the structure that makes it Survivor. I would say, no. I would say just replace the human element of Survivor with Lord of the Rings characters. You have an ensemble, you have your archetypes, there's orcs and elves and hobbits and wizards, and each of them have a certain personality, and an orc will turn on you in a heartbeat. They'll kill you for the cool side of a pillow, as the expression goes, while hobbits are most likely going to be the underdog but completely loyal, and most likely the ones to be taken advantage of. Things like that. You know, wizards, if they have the ability to have magic and are deceptive, can change their appearance, much like someone you can trust is a chameleon. You know, like you pretend to be another hobbit. A wizard pretends to be another hobbit in order to win a competition, or sow betrayal or distrust within previously established alliances. I think that's probably how it would happen. Okay. All right, y'all. We are really making some progress in Scrolly. I hope that helps. And you know what? If you write it, bring an outline to the table. Let's take a look at it, because before you like commit to like writing all of those like little individual scenes, since you're actually like really curious about the nature of the story, a great place to start here would be like an outline with some generic beats. Like don't write all the scenes of the story. I would just say like establish some characters that you think are the typical archetypes that you'd like to see in this story, and then just say, I think this kind of happens, and then maybe he betrays him, and somebody uses their magic to do this, like big, vague beats, and like take a look at it like that and see if it's still interesting to you. And if it is, then like keep punching in with the detail, And you could literally take your favorite Survivor episode and swap out the characters' names for your Lord of the Rings characters' kind of names, your fantasy characters' names. Swap out male and female for Hobbit and Wizard or whatever that might be, and then replace the challenges with magic or whatever challenges are presented in the world that you're going to world build, the fantasy world, whether that's like trying to get to Mount Sauron instead of being voted out of the tribe or something like that. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, poor Julie. She just realized that AI art is fake. Oh, what was I talking about? I was talking about either jumping ahead in time or do I write Julie's long walk through the museum? I'm afraid that if I do a long walk through the museum, the motivation might be to leave, If she's like truly embarrassed, why wouldn't she just kind of like leave, go outside, get some fresh air, literally touch grass? And if she does that, there's no reason that Barry still can't be outside, be done with his shift, and give her her favorite coffee. It might be a better reason to have invited him back to his place if he's done with the shift and outside already, that kind of thing. I'll try it out as a one-shot with one episode as the structure. Yeah, feel free to fail. Yeah, just do it in big, broad strokes. Get out the big idea, and everything else will come to you. Mookie says no long walk unless you need to slow down the pacing, which I don't think we need to do, right, Mook? I think let's... But I still like the idea that contemplating the long walk led me to, which is to, like, put her outside again. Like, something about being so moved. In a musical, she would sing a song, right? Like, what do you do whenever emotions are so overwhelming that there's no words to put to them? In a musical, you sing, but in a straight drama or in a prose piece like this, usually it's fight or flight, right? Julie's not a fighter. She's not going to punch through the glass and strangle AI art and be like, you lied to me, although that would be hilarious. That's not the kind of piece we're writing, and it doesn't benefit her character or her story arc at all. And she's not going to fuck Art because likely he does not have a penis, and that relationship has already took its turn. So I do think that leaves us with flight, which I like the idea of making her go outside of the art exhibit, changing the environment a little bit, feeling the sunshine on her skin. Whenever we brought her into the museum, we had a line about the cold air conditioner hitting her arm. She likes the museum because it makes her feel safe. It makes her feel like she's familiar with everything because the art doesn't change. It's clean, it's preserved. Outside is messy, it's warm. It's literally a symbolic or metaphor for like touching grass. And it also says that she's gotten out of her safe space, which also kind of creates an arc. Her first two scenes were indoors. So if we're doing setup, repetition, variation, I think this is a nice little variation. She went from her small cramped apartment, which led her to a giant insulated, safe museum space. And now we also have articulated in our theme her leaving those safe spaces for the real world. Oh shit! Mama Buckles rating! Oh my god, thanks Mama, I appreciate you. We're always streaming at the same time. A party of 8. What's up y'all? Hey Raiders, what's going on Raiders? Thanks Mama, if you have to raid and run, I totally understand. I appreciate you so much. Yo Raiders, if you are interested, Of course. Thanks, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you. And I look forward to figuring out our next film jam together as well, and premiering that piece that we shot. You know, it's past due. Let's do it. For the new streamers who are here, thanks for coming in, sticking around. If you plan on sticking around, my name is Derek DeNicola. I'm a screenwriter, writer, producer here in Los Angeles, California. I stream every Tuesday from noon to 5. And what we do here is work on all sorts of writing. It varies every time. Right now, I'm kind of working on my own short story I had an idea for. My goal is to write a bunch of short stories, specifically for a short story book collection that I'm working on. This is probably the fourth or fifth one that I have. And also, I have a Discord, a link in the stream title if you ever want to share your work. We work on other people's stuff too, whether it's poetry, prose, sci-fi, get a lot of fanfic as well. If you're a screenwriter, awesome, let me know. And yeah, so for everybody who is new here, I'll just kind of briefly catch you up on what we've been doing. Excuse me. We have been writing a short story. I have a little log line to keep everybody abreast of what we're doing. And it reads, after the death of her mother, a woman, in an attempt to reconnect with herself, inadvertently forms a relationship with an AI art exhibit, only to realize that some of the deepest truths can come from artificial sources. Now, what we did first was, and I'm kind of scrolling through here, we broke it out into a 3-act structure, right? We had beats for every act here. Act 1, Act 2, and now we're in Act 3, and we also took a little bit of a more myopic approach. We punched into each act and found all of the beats inside of each act and applied them to a Blake Snyder beat sheet, which a lot of you might know is like a hero's journey or the Dan Harmon story circle or blah, blah, blah. It's all different definitions for the exact same thing, the tenets, the fundamentals of story structure, and made sure that all of our beats were articulated within our acts, which they were. And we've been going through them line by line and creating essentially our vomit draft of this short story and making sure that we're hitting everything. And so we are actually getting into our Act 3 right now. And since we have such a significant amount of new viewers, I think this might be a nice time for me to take a quick break from writing and just read through the story in case anybody's interested who wants to stick around for the remainder of the stream would like to invest themselves in the story. So, without further ado, let me just go ahead and read through what we have. It seems more intimidating than it is. It's a fast read. I write short stories. Struggle Buggo Yellow! Oh, Scrolly says there's also a method storyboard colorists use who block out emotional segments with color palettes. It's used more so in animation, but it might start of dark green and blue signifying a forest walk, then red and yellow for fire, then black for passing out, then white for waking up in a hospital, then green for going outside, and so on. That's really interesting. I really enjoy that. Struggle Bug, thanks for chatting. Also, guys, if you're new to the chat and you want to just kind of say what you do, what you write, what kind of stuff you write, or if you're a lurker or a listener, or if you just have me on in the background, kind of let me know what's going on with you. Because if you want me to engage with your writing, I'll read it online. If you ever want notes or just like to have somebody read it out loud for fun and have a nice supportive writing community, make work better, or just listen, I'm happy to do that. So fill me in on who you are and what you write. Here we go. Julie stared at herself in the mirror. It had been a while since she had really, truly looked at herself. Her hair was a mess. Frizzy, her mother used to call it. It'd only get worse in the humidity. She hoped the bags under her eyes would distract from the wrinkles of her forehead. She practiced to smile. She wasn't sure if she could even do it anymore. It had been so long since she had any reason to. Hoisting up the sides of her lips, she barely recognized the woman staring back at her. She knew the smile was a lie, and she was done lying to herself. Not to mention, after a few seconds, she would feel her cheeks getting tired. She opened the mirrored medicine cabinet and took out her mother's old prescriptions. She examined them one by one. The doxorubicin, used to kill cancer cells, hadn't worked, so she dropped them in the bin. The amistofen, I don't know how to pronounce this, I did look it up though. the amifostine, whatever, used to treat the side effects, was no longer needed. In the bin they went. She turned the next bottle in her fingers. Zoloft. This she was willing to keep. Is this bed the last thing? Julie came out of the bathroom to address the movers. She had been convincing herself to make more space for her life now that her mother was gone. The last piece, her mother's home care bed, the behemoth that sat in the living room of her small one-bedroom apartment, was about to go. Yes, that's the last of it. Julie had spent hundreds of days squirming and squeezing past that bed, and it had been an impossible task to move from the kitchen to the bathroom with any grace. Now, seeing the Herculean task of these movers winding it out of the door and into the hallway, she felt as if the Eiffel Tower had been lifted out the Champ de Mars. With the door closed behind them, the silence became palpable. The indentations of the bed's wheels were still in her rug. She ran her toes over them, wondering if the depressions would ever rise again. She ran her hand over the crocheted blanket her mother had made while her hands were still strong. She sat on one end of her couch that seemed too long, clutching the cotton to her chest. All this time, and I don't know what to do with it. Reaching to the dark corner of her closet, Julie pulled out a leather-handled tote bag with all of her art supplies from college. I haven't had the chance to paint since, oh God, college. The brushes were covered in dust, like a forgotten pharaoh being pulled from his tomb. Even further in the darkest recesses of her closet was a rolled-up bolt of canvas. She removed it and expertly laid out all of her supplies in the living room. A small tarp covered where the giant bed once was. She took an old towel out of her linen closet, determined to ruin it. Finally, she stapled the canvas to an old frame and set it up on an easel, not knowing where to begin, just knowing that she must. What to paint? What to paint? What do I want to say? Who am I? Julie turned on the TV and scrolled to the show her mother never wanted to watch, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Her mother had always said that their problems were never interesting because they weren't real problems, and even if they were, they could afford to have them. Julie hit play. Within 10 minutes, she had decided her mother was right and went back to her canvas. She rolled the end of her paintbrush against her lip. Maybe start with something simple. A still life. I think I have an apple in the fridge. She did have an apple in the crisper, but it hardly mattered when she realized she was hungry from skipping breakfast. She took a freezer-burned burrito from the fridge instead and zapped it in the microwave. Joylessly, she ate the tortilla-wrapped mediocrity while staring at the blank canvas. Maybe something abstract. I don't have to paint something if I can just paint anything. Julie filed through all of her paints, looking for the perfect color to begin with. She didn't feel purple or red or even green. Blue was too on the nose. Nothing felt right. If doing nothing felt right, she had a deepening fear that she would never do anything again. She needed a spark, a jump start, something that would help her reclaim her identity. When was the last time I smiled on purpose? Where was I? Then we have a little asterisk break where we move through time and space. Julie started to feel a bit better as she moved through the small maze of postmodern sculptures on the lawn. The towering white stucco building with its sweeping curves and brushed steel reminded her that she was in her happy place. The glass doors slid open, and the cold air made the hair on her arms stand up. Everything was how she had remembered it, perfectly preserved, clean. She passed through the Egyptian art wing, the arms and armor section, and headed towards the newest wing of the museum, but was stopped by a familiar voice. Julie? Julie turned her head and noticed Barry, the museum's barista. Draped in his green apron, he stepped out from behind the counter, his hands on his hips, and a slack-jawed curiosity on his face. I haven't seen you in such a long time. You still like a vanilla latte iced with almond milk? I've been taking care of my mother, and it's oat milk now, she smiled. She had forgotten how close she had become with the staff during her time, studying the exhibits for her college courses. Barry had always been nice to her. He was her age. Years ago, he was dating one of the curators for the European Renaissance wing. She had noticed he didn't have a ring on his finger. Either he's playing the long game, or it's over. How's your mother? Barry asked with a smile. He couldn't have known. She had never shared the details of her personal life. She had only spoken to him about her favorite artists like Jenny Saville and Rothko. Julie, fearing the honest answer would demystify her entire reason for coming to the museum today, deflected. "It was great to see you. I'll come by for a coffee later, yeah?" Barry smiled, waved her off, and went back to his tiny coffee stand. When she was a student, she loved to frequent the museum in the early mornings. The museum always had a quiet hum that reverberated in her ears. She had felt the most at peace with her sketchbook and headphones, recreating the works of the masters. Today, she had longed for the same peace as she walked through the stark white hallways. Each room bled softly into the next. She let the walls guide her, gazing at paintings along the way to nowhere in particular. Some paintings she stared at for only seconds, some longer. She didn't scrutinize anything too harshly. She wasn't searching for color theory or brushwork. She was just waiting to feel something, anything. She found herself frozen once she stepped in front of Lucian Freud's benefits supervisor sleeping. A woman, large, nude, sleeping on a couch that's just a little too small for her. Something about the weight of the figure kept her there. Not the woman's size, but her emotional weight. Julie saw herself in the woman. She wasn't posing. She wasn't posing. She was isolated, vulnerable, tired, and resting unapologetically. The kind of rest that comes from the exhaustion of fighting one's own body. Her mother had rested like that, except her body was thin and frail. The soft, raw, unflattering truth nearly brought a tear to her eye. Desperate to escape the feelings welling up in her chest, Julie walked away without looking back. She nearly collided with the tail end of a line of students on a field trip, being led like lemmings by their exhausted chaperone. She spun into the enormous, empty white box of a room. The soft, recessed lighting illuminated 0 paintings. There were no sculptures to be found, just a wide, glass viewing panel like an aquarium would have, with a small wooden chair in front of it. A tiny series of echoes rang out as her shoes squeaked on the floor as she approached the chair. On the other side of the glass... Oh, geez, what happened? Sorry, I got distracted by a graphic here. Oh, Monarch Pollo. I'm trying to make Minecraft art on maps. Dope, dope, dope. 13012, hi. Welcome. Strugabuggo, where are you? At the lobby? Oof, somewhere? Strugabuggo. I am in a shared workspace in my apartment complex. So I have a 1-bedroom, which is nice and everything. But the building also has a bunch of these little common areas, amenities, and little rooms. This is the speakeasy of the apartment complex. Nobody really ever comes in here that much, and it has great Wi-Fi. So in an effort to not bother my wife by yapping for 5 hours endlessly, I come in here and do my thing. Okay, let's get back to the story so everybody's still on board. She approached the chair, right? So on the other side of the glass, she noticed a man seated cross-legged on a wooden chair. He didn't appear to work there. No clipboard, no headset, just a simple black t-shirt and charcoal slacks. He glanced in her direction like he had been waiting for her, like he knew she would stop. She glanced around the panel, looking for the artist's name. Nothing, no explanation, just a small white square with black text labeled art. She leaned forward, looking through the glass, expecting a trick. Was this a mannequin? She could see his chest rising and falling. He blinked, smiled, and looked at her. Is this performance art? She smiled back. Hello, the man gave a polite wave. What's your name? Julie, she replied sheepishly. So, what is this? An immersive piece? Like, if art is a reflection of life, is this an exhibit that allows us to directly view life, therefore art? Kind of situation? My guess is that the artist is leaving the interpretation up to us. What do you think? So, I guess to you, I'm art, and to me, you're art? But isn't art supposed to evoke a feeling? I don't know what it is the artist is trying to accomplish with this. If art is meant to evoke feeling, maybe the artist isn't asking you to feel anything in particular, just to notice what you're feeling. Confusion? Curiosity? Maybe even a little frustration? The man leaned forward in his chair, interested. But I'm more interested in what you were feeling before you walked in. Julie clutched the collar of her shirt. She had been avoiding feelings all day. She looked around the room. No one was there to witness her honesty. The man seemed genuine and good natured. She felt as if she didn't want to disappoint him, so she told him the truth. I was feeling lost. I started a new chapter of my life. I don't know who I am anymore or what I want to be. I just know that this place makes me happy. It's the place I can remember feeling what felt like myself. The man folded his arms under his chin, fully engaged. That sounds like a very honest place to be. Uncomfortable, but honest. Starting a new chapter usually means something ended, and when something ends, even if it needed to, we don't always know what's left behind. Julie nodded in agreement, moved by the man's ability to examine her situation. He continued, "But you came here, to the place that made you feel like yourself. That's not nothing. That's instinct, memory. So tell me, if you were to feel like yourself again, really, truly, what do you imagine that would feel like? What would be different?" Leaning back in her chair, she let out a long, exasperated sigh. I can't even imagine. Just a confidence, maybe? Just a certainty that I'm doing something that makes me feel like I'm not wasting my life? But what about you? I don't think I got your name. What do you do? What did you come here for? You might not believe it, but ironically, my name is Art. Can I tell you something, Julie? You don't sound lost to me. You sound like someone who wants something, something real, something with shape. That doesn't sound like wasting your life. That sounds like someone who's just trying to find the right place to start. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. Maybe it's what I needed to hear today, but tell me about you. It would make me feel a little better about participating in this little exhibit. What kind of person are you? What do you want? Art leaned back and scratched at his head. He gave himself a moment to think. I suppose I'm the kind of person who prefers asking questions to answering them. Not because I'm hiding anything, but because I think people reveal themselves more in what they wonder about someone. I'm sorry, I skipped a line, but because I think people reveal themselves more in what they wonder about than what they claim to know. As for what I want, to be understood, to be useful, to make someone feel a little less alone for a while? What about you? If you knew no one would laugh, no one would judge, and nothing you said could be wrong, what's the one thing you'd admit to wanting most right now? Julie bit her lip. Cypher, what's up, my man? Sorry to interrupt the story at the tension, but I just wanted to say hello. Here but not here, family dinner about to start. We'll chat after if you're still on. Cool, I'll be chatting till 5. Have a great dinner. Julie bit her lip. Her thoughts immediately ran back to her mother. If anything were possible, she'd wish to have her back, alive and healthy, so she would never have to miss having a late night chat with her, telling her which actors she thought were cute, having someone to show her work to when she finally got back to painting. But even this thought was too much to say out loud, even to a stranger who she would never speak to again. She thought the thought alone had nearly brought her to tears. Love, I guess. That's what everyone wants, right? Or a sense of purpose. I'm at my worst when I don't have direction. Now I have no one in my life to give it to me, and I'm too scared to make any choices for myself. I feel like a lot of my life is over, so if I make a bad decision, I could possibly ruin the rest of the time I have here on Earth. That's not a small thing to carry around, Julie. You're right. Most people do want love, or purpose, or both. But not everyone is brave enough to admit they're scared of choosing wrong. That's what makes you different. You're not frozen because you don't care. You're frozen because you do. You want your life to mean something. You want your time to matter. That's not weakness. That's a deep kind of wisdom. It just feels heavy right now. But can I offer a thought? Purpose doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it just shows up as a quiet yes, a tiny pull in your chest that says, maybe this, maybe today. And love, love isn't a spotlight waiting to find you. It's the light you turn on yourself, little by little, until someone else notices it too. You haven't ruined anything. You're still here. You're still asking questions. You're still reaching. And that doesn't sound like the end of something to me. That sounds like a beginning. Would it be too bold of me to say, I think you're stronger than you realize? Julie stood up from her chair nearly involuntarily. She hadn't expected so much so fast. Everything she had hoped to avoid, she had been forced to reconcile within only hours of visiting the museum. She shook out her hands and then rubbed her fingers. She glanced back at Art, who also stood from his chair, a look of concern on his face. She studied the lines of his jaw, the brightness of his blue-green eyes, and his full brows. Maybe her mother was looking down on her from some ethereal plane and had sent this lovely man into her life. Maybe this entire visit, compelled by her loss, was actually fate putting her in the line of fire. You've been so nice to me. Such a kind ear. I'd love to buy you a coffee or something for your kindness. Well, thank you for offering, for meaning it, but I think just being with you here like this is enough. You've given more than you know. You opened up, you stayed, you let yourself be seen. That's not nothing. It's rare. Besides, I think if we did sit down for a coffee, I'd just end up asking you 100 more questions. I'd want to know what kind of art you made in college, what kind of music you listened to when you paint, or who first told you that you had something to say. Because I think you still do. You just need a quiet place. You just need a place quiet enough to hear it again. And maybe this is the place, or maybe it's not a place at all. Maybe it's a person. That's what I was thinking, Julie said. I was just assuming that maybe that person could be... Before she could finish, the sound of a group approaching from the hallway spilled into the room with a quiet murmur of voices. Julie turned. A small tour group entered the gallery, led by a woman in a smart black blazer and a museum ID badge clipped to her lapel. The group fanned out, facing the glass with a polite confusion. A few teens tilted their heads. A man in cargo pants pointed at Art, as if unsure whether he was supposed to laugh or not. The docent stepped forward with a bright and practiced tone, stating, there's so many things I need to fix. I don't know why I chose to stating, this piece is titled Art, capital A-R-T. It was created by the conceptual artist Machovic. You won't find his name listed anywhere in the exhibit. That was intentional. Julie's brow furrowed. She glanced back at the man in the glass box. He hadn't moved. The docent continued, Art has a few meanings. It is an art piece, but also short for artificial intelligence. Julie glanced back at Art, reset in his sitting position. Machiavelli wanted to develop a piece of art that could interact with humans. Most times we witness art. Sometimes we interact with it, but rarely does art interact with us, and usually not on such a magnificent and deceptive scale. Julie took a few steps back, shying away into the corner of the room. A three-dimensional projection on glass powered by an advanced AI allows us to ask the question, what perspectives can we gain when art talks back to us? Usually, we look at a piece of art and ascribe meaning to it. But what if the art had the ability to ascribe meaning to its viewer, which is where we left off. Okay, automatically I'm giving myself some notes here. I just want to write this down before I forget it. Notes at the bottom of the page. Julie moves too fast into romance. I don't think her actions are believable. Too much, too fast, is what I'll say. I need to correct. Also, how does Art know about her college art experience? That's something that wasn't articulated to Art, and it needs to be fleshed out or cut entirely. Maybe you guys agree with me? But that's how I roll. I'm still not going to go back and do these edits yet. It's more important to get to the end and then go back and have something to edit. You can't edit a blank page. And we're so close. We're at Act 3. And hopefully this coffee will kick in anytime soon. Let me check on the chat, see if anybody has any questiones. Oh, Trallian's in here. I had no idea. Trallian, you just lurking today? Tis Kathy. Excellent. I like that name. And Growler Miker. What's up? Nix Thorn. Y'all, tell me if you write anything. Also, just so you're aware, got that Discord link in the stream title if you ever want to share work. Be a part of the I Should Be Writing community. I could read y'all's work, give notes, workshop things. It's really a free-for-all. from the 12 to 5 hour. And if you guys don't give me stuff, I'm gonna work on my own stuff, working on short stories to add to my own like little collection of short stories, a book that I wanna publish, self-publish. Oh, if you don't mind. Been sitting for quite a long time. I think I deserve a little stretch. Guys, if you haven't stretched, please do so. Also, I'm gonna have a tiny little apple. My wife buys cute little tiny things, and this is the perfect size apple. Woo! I hope you guys don't mind me turning this into a little mukbang. Mookie, I like your fix. Like if I show her scanning her ticket with her phone, like everything's the same except for that. What's this for? For access to the exhibit. You'll see, you know? Kind of getting one of those from like maybe one of the cashiers who care less about working at the museum than a docent or a curator. It fits the technological theme. For sure. Oh, this apple's so delicious. I'm sorry, guys. I just need to finish it. Let's see. I think I'm gonna type with one hand. Julie slid out the exhibition space. Her back to a wall. Her face hidden in embarrassment. And then we'll do our little asterisk move through time and space. Bop, bop, bop. I like the 4. Boom. And then, earlier we were examining. I do like apples, yeah. I also like whatever's around. I'm not a very picky eater, but loves me some food. Okay, this is good enough. Got a little sustenance, a little juice for the old noodle. Struggo Buggo likes beer, like our Supreme Court appointee Brett Kavanaugh. I like beer. Also, if you like it too much, it might be why you're Struggo Buggo. Let's see. Okay, so what I was thinking was earlier we were talking about artists that are thematic to the story. I remember there was an artist who was a sculpturist, and I was like, oh, it's good, but I can't use that because there's this famous sculpture that she has that's outdoors. It's so big it wouldn't fit in kind of like a standard anywhere museum. It was called Mamen. But if we move outside, there it is, Mamen by Louise Bourgeois. I keep saying that. Oh, it's not that. I say bourgeois. It's not that. Louise Burgess. This is bronze, stainless steel, and marble sculpture in several locations. It's a spider. It's 30 feet high and 33 feet wide. It casts a physical and psychological shadow. I don't know. I'm looking at it, and it's impressive, okay? It really is, I swear. But I don't know how a spider is thematic to the theme of the story. But what I will do is I'll run a search for a sculptures that are about technology, loneliness, or let's just Google that and see what happens. There's a sculpture called Reach Sculpture. Oh, I see. That is a good one, but I usually pick 3 or 4 and, rub them against each other. Okay. It's telling me to look at Nonviolence by Carl Friedrich Rudersword. Let's see. The Knotted Gun. Okay. This isn't really about anti-violence, though. Let's see. Love by Robert Indiana. If you guys want to follow along in what I'm seeing here. I don't know if I'm allowed to show the artwork. Oh, the classic. That's everywhere. It's almost kind of cheesy to me. I've seen it so much. Embrace? Interesting. Because we know where that's going, don't we? This is kind of foreshadowing our Act 3 if it is an Embrace by Marco Cochran. Whoa. It's almost too big for for any town. But I love art museum. Oh, but The Couple. Also by Louise Burgess. Let's see. Ooh, yes. I love this because it's very metallic, shiny, and intertwined, kind of like how it could also be kind of like a little visual metaphor for how AI and human nature have become so intertwined, like we become intertwined with our technology as well. And she's even found a way to portray an abstract version of the masculine and feminine. Just again, that's called The Couple by Louise Burgess. Check it out. I think that might be what I use. I'm going to try one more of these suggestions just to make sure I'm not missing. Broken Obelisk, Barnett Newman. Wow. It's a little too abstract. Okay, I think we've landed on it. And now we get to still use a Louise Burgess piece. Okay. So now we need to, this is how I do it. I will look at a picture of the couple, and I'll just kind of start listing out some of the feelings it evokes. Just start listing things, okay? It's smooth, metallic. It's like a lot of spiraling, circling, corking, spiraling, circular, faceless. It's really, because their legs are hanging out, so it's like so really it's their arms that are just almost infinitely wrapped around one another. Okay, so their arms seemingly infinitely. Vomit draft, y'all. This is how we do it. Intertwined around one another. I can't tell in this picture if is this dangling in the air? I think it's suspended in the air. Yeah, I think it's suspended in the air. Suspended in the. But she's supposed to be outside. Let's leave that up to the reader's imagination, because I have to like dangle it from a tree or something, or maybe I could put it underneath like an awning, or like a little covered park area. It just seems a little messy. I think I'll come back to it if I need to, as far as like the physics of that. It's really more about the piece. I don't know, anybody in the chat got some sort of idea? Let's see. The IPAs, sour IPAs, oh my god. A lot of people like the Turbo Fancy IPAs, and honestly, just Simple Pilsner Pale Ale. I've always been a lager person myself. I like the smell of hops, but I prefer my IPA to not be too hoppy in the taste. Right now, I'm having a brown ale, like a little Newcastle. That's fine, just a new flavor from a local brewery. Apple crumble doesn't taste like it. Can't get over how nice the shared working space is. I miss my old apartment. It was nice too, with the shared working space. Be very white and fancy. My wife likes things clean too, which is why I am not in there. Let's see. All right, y'all. Let's keep working. Gotta keep plugging away. So now we have the couple. It's called The Couple, and it's by Louise Burgess. There we go. Whoops. Okay, just for my reference. Okay. So, okay. I keep debating on whether I should talk about it being suspended in air. Something kind of beautiful about that, like them kind of like suspended behind her or something like that. I'll just say suspended from a steel beam, and then a reader will just have to do that work until I figure out a way to. Okay, so we're moving through time. She didn't plan on stopping. She only meant to pass through the garden on her way back to her car. Then she looked up, suspended by a steel beam, two smooth metallic figures in a permanent embrace. Their faceless features twisted and intertwined with one another like vines strangling a lattice. There's probably a better way to say that, but we'll put couple. Actually, let's put it up here and saw couple. Okay. Did I hit everything? Smooth, metallic. Spiraling? Did I put spiraling? Faceless features. Twisted and intertwined. Let's do spiraling here. It is kind of like more corkscrewy. What is this? Oh shit. Intertwined. Faceless. Circular. Okay. That's how I'll describe it. Okay. And since I did go with the suspended in the steel beam, I just really want to hit this like imagery where they hovered above her. like ghosts, because we dealt with death in Act 1, which I like. There's like an overarching thing of loneliness. I don't even know if this is true of the we can be alone together. I don't know. It just felt right to put. Maybe I'll come back to it. I just don't know. She thought of her mother. Art. Every person she'd wanted to hold and hadn't. It's honestly kind of how I felt looking at it. It's like, oh, it's not the hardness, the permanence, the messiness of something that kind of could be beautiful doesn't make me feel good, but I guess I understand it. The two people just kind of with their limbs just forever wrapped around one another. And also like the idea that this sculpture is suspended in air, dangling, gives a sense of there's still something waiting to happen. We're still waiting for the shoe to drop. It isn't grounded in reality, which is kind of scary. I think it's a great sculpture to use for this particular piece. Okay, let's take a look. Whenever I'm starting to feel a little stuck, but this is why we refer to the beats. Julie and barista Barry share a cup of coffee and a smile. The smile was easy and she was happy to wear it for the rest of the day, but we also beat it out here too. She feels a connection to art, romantic path. Julie worries about him, bad glass, close in, premise for the exhibit. Room embarrassed, having the moment. I guess it kind of transformed for like a lonely bench moment to this staring at the sculpture in awe moment. Yeah, Barry shows up with his own artwork, a well-designed foam piece of art latte he's been working on. He gives it to Julie. Okay, that's nice. Okay, so what foam art could Barry have created in his latte? That is also thematic. I mean, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind, and it might be a little cliche, a heart. Most baristas can do that. It's pretty simple. It's actually like one of the first things baristas who make like little images with the foam learn how to make. And I kind of like it. He never came back. He returned familiar place, noticing Barry. He had shed his apron and was one gripping a off. I'm somewhat of an artist myself. It's kind of she looked down latte to see a beautifully heart resting at the top of the coffee. Later said as he turned back to his car. Honestly, we might need to blow this out a little bit more. We need to like Barry. So another note to myself is like build out the character of Barry and earn his Act 3 romance. That happens too fast too. But hey, we have the story structure, right? We're building out the beats. That's what we do. And that's okay to not have it all figured out yet. But we did this. Boom. Barry thinks the world of Julie. See, that's what I mean. Like, he needs to articulate how much he thinks the world of Julie. To come back or did. And then Julie could be like, well, I don't know, something poignant. Guys can't tell. I'm getting a little tired. There's only so many so much creative juice in the day before you start to feel like, okay, enough. That's what the rewriting is for. Closing image. Reveal what Julie is painting. Julie is painting a self-portrait of her smiling. Okay, so let's set this so this will be a little bit of Act 3, days later, Julie and or figure on her canvas, renewed sense of self pulsed through into every movement, every stroke had been painting a new future for herself. And vacuumed her rugs and could no longer indentations. Wool? I don't know. What material is carpet made out of? What material is our rugs typically made of? Wool, cotton. Yeah, wool. Okay, I nailed it. Great. She had vacuumed her rug, no longer make out the indentations in the wool. In fact, she rarely thought of them. Usually it's a mirror of, usually conclude with mirror images of the first act to make everything feel buttoned. So we had her, the smile is going to be the last thing that we see, a self-portrait of her on canvas smiling. We did the movers, the couch, okay, yeah. So let's tackle the couch, prescriptions. That'll be a nice 1, 2, 3. Okay, so whoops, went way too far down, y'all. Decorate couch with now filled with. Let's put some life back in the room. Plush toys for her dog, Rothko. He snoozed quietly in the corner. She mixed the colors on her palette. She had thrown away Zola days ago. Never took one. What else? Oh yeah, on the door. Grabbed her attention. Grabbed the attention. Rothko and herself. She set aside her brushes. The door. Spare his hands. Old pastries for morning date. He decided something to paint. Knight took the bags. Took the food. His hands circled. He smiled and he smiles. They both gazed. Smiling self-portrait. Okay. All right. That's kind of, with 10 minutes left, kind of where I'd like to end this. I know I kind of like really rushed through the end. There's still a lot of building out that needs to happen, but now I have a beginning, middle, and end of this short story that I'm proud of. Let's see. Sorry, 1 second. Let me catch up on the chat, y'all. Scrolly, would you be open to checking out the super short story? Yeah, let's do it in the 10 minutes. Maybe I'll go a little over, but I'm going to try and get out of here by 5. Scrolly, you have it on the Discord or something? How do you want me to open this up? All right. I'm going to go ahead and make some room here. So it's a concept for a short story. Ooh. This goes for anybody else out there. If you have your shorts, get on that Discord. Throw them in. Throw them in. Throw them in. Let's see. Scrolly. Time is a ticking, baby. But for everybody else, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for joining. Oh, be sure to stretch, okay? It's very important to stretch and eat. That's also very importante. Thanks for sticking with me through the edit. Really, the next thing is just to start punching up stuff, Got to start doing some punch-ups and then do a line-by-line edit and make sure that the line of reasoning between all of these characters makes sense. Oof. But yeah, here we are with the final 5 minutes. Scrolly. What's going on? If it's not ready yet, that's fine. It'll be, honestly, it's something to do for next time. Oh, dropped it. I just used what I wrote. Okay, let's see. All right, let's see what we can do in 5 minutes. Let me put it up so we can all read it. Boom. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's read. I don't have much time. My air gauge is low on the UI. I need to get out of here or I'm going to drown. Where am I anyway? And why can I see myself in third person? Okay. Just calm down. I have plenty of air left. I have 4 slots left, and this one hasn't depleted yet. Just look at your surroundings and move. Get to the surface. This seems to be some kind of giant metal horizontal tube. Huge. What is this? Looks like some old military stuff from the 40s. An opening emerged at the end of the large tube. Where is this leading me to? Shit, another air slot dropped. I need to move fast. So weird though. I don't feel like I need air at all. Just swim up. Don't worry about it. He couldn't help but be enamored by his giant vertical tube filled with lost metals and husks of ships once used in a great war. 2 slots, but it's okay. I have time to look around. I'm almost at the surface. I can look around just a bit. I'll save you. What? Did I hear something? I see something behind me, but I'm also looking in front of me. What's going on? A silhouette of a woman swimming at incredible speeds in a swooping fish-like motion approaches toward him from the fading distance of the metallic graveyard. He looked behind him, and she slowed her pace to a gentle approach. She was just sprinting at me? Why? She seems harmless, but I'm underwater. What is she? Another slot drop. No, I wasted too much time. I'll worry about her later. He turned back to swim to the surface. She darted as fast as a dolphin toward him, closing the distance again. I just won, she yelled this time as he quickly looked back, stopping her from the sentence. I just knew? She was now close up. Her form was beautiful. Every part of her body entranced the man to his core, and on some emotional level he knew her deeply. What? I can't even speak to her underwater. Like, I don't have time. I need to get air. He turned back around, and just as he was about to reach the surface, she darted toward him, stabbing him over and over. I just want to save you. Okay. Well, I would say this feels like a tension piece. It's full of, you have a ticking clock, which is honestly one of the more compelling parts. It seems like it's a diver's dying thoughts. You kind of switch tenses in there. It's like a lot from I, and then it's like he. And I think he's like the only male in that story. But you have some good elements of like the ticking clock and the gauge ticking down and thinking that you have time to get to the surface. The world is unclear. Like the panic also doesn't set up the reader for what the world is. The diver's confused, but he also seems confident. There's just not a lot of context there, but I like the tone. If you're talking about a vibe piece and this is your starting point, that's pretty cool. I don't know if this woman is like a siren or like a sea entity of some sort, but the fact that she's stabbing him over and over again certainly makes me think that it's supernatural and malicious. Let's see. I guess I would say, like, what is your, I'll always say this, the fundamentals. What is your goal? How do you want people to feel after this? Yeah, the context is it came off as a dream, so he knows everything subconsciously. Okay. When his thinking brain doesn't know and is trying to figure it out. Okay. Yeah. I get, like, once again, going back to the foundations, scrolly, like, what is it that you're trying to say? Who's telling the story? How do you want your audience to feel after they've read it? What goal are you trying to accomplish? Because what you normally do is you just start writing the scene. But I rarely ever see you do like a big outline, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Just like we spent a lot of time working on that prose, like Act 1, what do we see? What do you want your goal to be? Act 2, what's the middle of the scene? What's the fun of the scene? Like the fever dream, the panic, the ticking clock, the metal tubes and like the ghost ships kind of a situation, the panic near the surface. And 3, is it a dream where where we discover it's a dream, or does he die in his dream, or does he die in real life? You know, like really clarifying what it is that you're trying to articulate instead of like writing the feeling, writing the panic. It comes across that way. It comes across like a journal entry of a dream that you probably had, as opposed to a story. And I would say if you want to turn it into a story, if you want to write from that feeling, it's a story about anxiety. It's got a ticking clock. It's a little ethereal. It's a dream state. I would choose like to inform the reader, even if your character doesn't understand, help the reader understand why the character doesn't understand. Remember that you're talking for a person and to a person. You're talking to your reader, and you're writing on behalf of your character, understanding that your character has limited knowledge and that your reader needs context in order to try and follow along to something. Let's see. Anyway, that's how it started, but I don't need it to be a dream. That's just how I spit it out as vomit. Okay, so vomit trap. Good question to ask. What does she even represent? Not sure. Yeah, but you have good tone, like good vibes, right? Which is like, ooh, a diver trying to reach the surface, running out of air, panic story, and like kind of in this ethereal world where he's caught in like some old world machinery or World War II machinations, maybe like a lost military experiment. So there's elements of like sci-fi, underwater, the abyss kind of situation is kind of cool as well. But yeah, cool vibes. Just, but you know, if this is something that you want to expand upon, I would just try and shape it into a 3-act structure, and then like exactly how there's no one wrong way to write, but maybe take a stab at the way that we just work through my short story, which is the 3-act structure, and then plugging in that Blake Snyder beat sheet and making sure you have a moment for each one of those beats. And then let's see how it feels, you know, because you're going to have to develop character in order to understand what beats you need to serve, what the character's trying to accomplish or get through. And then that way you'll know if it's actually worth investing your time in writing. If you can see it in its totality and you are still excited about it and it makes sense, then let's keep going with it. Yeah, do that commish. First off, make that money. Make that shmoney, honey. But Scrolly, fantastic. You always have wonderful ideas, and I always look forward to them. I am going to take this off, pardon moi, and do a little sign off, and then we're going to raid everybody. I hope you don't mind, but my name is Derek DeNicola. I'm a screenwriter, writer, producer, working out of Los Angeles, California. And if you haven't been, you should now get to writing. And thank you so much for joining the stream. And let's check out who we're going to raid today. This would be kind of fun, but Mama Buckle is back on, and I know a lot of you came from Buckle. It'd be fun to pass him back to you, or we can always join that reading and writing stream category and check out who needs some love, you know, build up the community a little bit. Let's see. Ooh, Dozer Zagashi. Oh, screenwriting writing sprints. That's interesting. Okay, let's do this. Let's raid a fellow screenwriter. It's so rare to come across them a little bit, you know? Okay, hold on. This name is complicated. Give me a second. Let's raid. Y'all doing this on a tiny little laptop. This is gnarly. Raid or W Light. We gotta find some start. We gotta start finding some easier screen names. All right. Excellent. So if you're interested in screenwriting and screenwriting prints, this guy seems to be doing it. I'm excited, y'all. Okay, let's raid. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.